All right, I'm going to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for April 10th, 2024. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have with us John Callahan, Danielle Jouen, Martha Majeski, Bob Cooney, and myself, Mark Donovan, from the board. We have Lori Getz, our township manager, Bill Brennan, our solicitor, Paul Bettinger, our township engineer, and we have Valentina Mitterer, our assistant manager. We'll start with the announcement of the executive sessions from April 8th and April 10th to discuss personnel and litigation. And let's see, we have somebody from the EAC here for a proposal for the DCNR conservation project, Karen Hilliard. If you'd like to come forward, and we'll start with that.
I'm Karen Hilliard from the EAC, and this is...
I'm Charlie Eckley, also from the EAC.
So we are here to present the proposed lawn conversion at Pickering Creek. Pickering Preserve. We've been talking with DCNR for probably about a year and a half now, going over a reforesting project on a portion of land. It's about 2.5 acres along Pothouse Road. There's currently some pines there towards the end of their life. The area is mowed periodically. The plan would be for DCNR to come in and plant approximately 500 trees and shrubs. The density would be 200 stems per acre. They would do 70% native trees and 30% native shrubs. They'd all be sapling size, so very small trees with deer protection installed at the time of installation. They'd all be native species. So currently the area is mowed. The plan is for it to eventually not need to be mowed as the trees grow in and prevent the grasses and stuff from growing in that area. The DCNR would be funding the program. They have partner organizations that provide the trees and installation. So there'd be no initial cost. The proposed maintenance would be that for 10 years we need to preserve these trees and keep them growing and alive. So we have to maintain 70% survival rate. So do you have anything to add to it?
I don't think so.
If there's any questions, we can answer any questions.
Do you have a proposal of what would be the cost associated with maintaining the trees? I would assume that since they're native trees, they probably are lower maintenance than some other ornamental trees.
The native trees are best grown in this type of soil. The plan would be to plant them in the fall, either this 2024 or 2025, and that way the trees are pretty much dormant then and go dormant through the winter, and then they start to wake up in the spring. Hopefully we'll have another rainier spring like we are this year. It helps get the trees going. So then the maintenance would be to maintain the deer protection. So the EAC has proposed that we would do like an annual maintenance volunteer day to try and engage the residents to come and help. We would straighten tree tubes. We would weed around each tree tube, trying to prevent weeds from growing in. After a year or two, some of the shrubbier ones would not be perfect in those tree tubes, so they would want slightly bigger. So we would have to build, you get like wooden stakes and metal or plastic mesh to wrap around it to protect them from the deer browse. And then we would annually have to maintain the deer protection and the weeds that would grow around. So when they plant the trees, the option is for them to spray like an herbicide around it, but we have alternatives to that if the township didn't want the herbicide. A lot of the EAC members are against the herbicide, so we had some options in the proposal of different options and their costs for like a weed mat, wood chips, or stone mulch to be placed around each tree to prevent the weeds, which would limit the amount of maintenance of weed whacking or hand pulling of weeds.
Is it anticipated that with the financial allocation that the EAC receives today, that they would be able to cover the maintenance costs with that, or would there be additional funds needed?
It should fall within our budget. We were hoping that we would be able to do our annual maintenance to help each year, but there may be some assistance needed by the maintenance of the township. But we were discussing in our EAC that we would bring that to your attention as needed and not like a regular and monthly or weekly maintenance.
Laurie, I have a question for you. Has Nick seen this?
No, he's not seen the proposal specifically, but I would want to review a maintenance plan with him. There was also, I had reached out to Redtail, because there's a good deal of maintenance, it seemed to me anyway, there was a good deal of maintenance that's going to be involved in this, a lot of responsibility on the part of the township. I mean, I specifically have concerns with the requirement that we keep 70% of them alive.
Okay, I can
But-
that when you're.
Okay, great. And, you know, so yes, I would want to involve Nick in the conversation, but, you know, DCNR is seemingly going to handle a lot of it all of it up front. It's just the continued long-term maintenance that.
If we don't keep 70% of, so it's 70%, if we don't keep 70, we keep 69% of the trees alive, okay? What would be the cost that we'd have to repay DCNR?
So we wouldn't really have to repay them, we would repay them the cost of new trees, or we would plant them ourselves. And
Okay,
a sapling, you can get 50 to 100 bare root trees at $3 to $5 per tree. So we anticipated if we had to replace 50 to 100 trees, it would be $500.
okay, but we're not paying a proportional,
No.
okay.
They also said that if there was a significant amount, more than 70%, that did not survive, they would likely have funding for the purchase of more trees to be installed. So like they do have annual funding that would cover loss of trees in the future. And there's no guarantee that that funding would be available to us, but it's a normal thing for them to fund additional trees. And then there was a discussion with, I believe, Nick and Earl from the EAC about there are existing Scotch pine trees there. They're not a native species, and Nick was concerned that they may cost more to remove once the tree fell, since they are older trees now. And we had reached out to DCNR to ask what their thoughts are on if we should remove them before planting these trees, or if we what their thoughts were. And they said that they're fine with us removing them or not removing them. It's up to us. But because they're not a listed invasive species, they can't fund removing them, but they could fund planting trees in the spaces that like those were already taken up. So it's really up to the township if they wanted to remove them prior to, but it's not required at all.
Is this gonna change at all the, sort of the usage, it's passive recreation, right, today? So it's not gonna change the use?
No, I mean, there's already trees there. It's mowed, but it is more of like a weedy meadow kind of situation. So it's not like an active like play area for anyone. It's more just sparse trees, and this would be a more dense tree area. It would create habitat. We were thinking it as a very visible area that township members could see the importance of native trees, the habitat. We would plan to write newsletter articles and have signage at the park explaining the importance of native trees. We already do have that, but we would go into it more about reforesting and reducing lawn, and how much trees absorb water from rain, they absorb the groundwater and help reduce flooding, just stuff like that. Any other questions?
Anything from the board?
So it's right along Hot House Road.
Cool.
Sorry, Okay.
Yeah, so part of the maintenance plan talks about mowing strips between the trees before they reach a certain height. I don't know what kind of equipment Nick and the road crew has. I'm assuming they're the one who do the mowing right now.
Mhm.
Will the plant spacing affect that at all? Like, are they gonna have to take
So
a hand mower out there and take 10 times longer?
They do plan it so that a standard mower, like they would find out from.
Okay.
I actually had it done at my own property, and they spaced it enough that a commercial mower can get through and go around each one.
Mhm.
So I just had it done in the fall. I did have the guy who cuts my grass come see it, and he did not freak out. Like, so he said that he was going to mow through it and then periodically weed whack around, because you don't need to weed whack. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
It's more of a natural thing. We're reforesting, so we're trying to keep it as natural as possible, but we need to prevent invasive species from encroaching too much on it, creating like two dents around the trunk of the tree where rodents can come in and try and nest there, and then they end up chewing on the bottom of the trunk of the tree and could cause damage to the tree. So we want to keep that as clear as possible, so it's not as habitable to the rodent to want to live there and chew on that tree and damage it.
Okay, cool.
And then over time, the grass will probably die by the amount of shade that the
Exactly.
trees, so it would be
Yes.
less maintenance and whatnot over
Yes,
time,
that's-
hopefully, in theory.
Yes, as long as it
Mhm.
takes trees a long time to grow, but but if we do trees and shrubs, the shrubs will help crowd out the lawn faster as they're more dense at the base.
So I guess it was not quite 10 years ago, the school district had done that riparian buffer off of, is it gonna kind of look like that?
Yes, I mean, hopefully they would, I think that was all trees.
Yes.
Yeah, so hopefully the shrubs will help fill it in faster, and it'll look a little more dense quicker.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a question, is there any point at which when do we have to make a decision, or is there anything, is no vote called for at our meeting tonight?
No vote tonight. I think the intention was just to present the concept to the board. Karen, when,
It is all about the funding, so the sooner we get an approval, we can get on the DCNR list and secure our funding. As time goes by, other townships or private owners will start to grab up that funding, and then we may have to wait another year. It's really, there's no guarantee that they'll have funding every year, but it's
Right.
it's really as soon as possible. There is no real deadline.
okay, great.
Could we put it maybe on the agenda for next?
For next month, yeah,
Next month.
absolutely.
And I think, Lori, I also think that Nick should take a look at this and,
Yes, and he is aware of the concept. We just haven't sat and gone through a potential maintenance program, if that makes sense. It's not completely new to him.
okay. Because I really like the idea that the EAC said that they would be willing to do a yearly thing with this. Karen, I'm sorry, but we've heard that from other projects from the EAC.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying, like, I'm fairly new to the EAC.
Mhm.
I can't guarantee anything, but I mean, I'm trying to do what I can to help get things going. I feel like we did the tree giveaway last year.
Mhm.
I plan to try and do that every year. I thought it was well received by the township, so I hope that we can get the town more involved in volunteering to help with it, so that it can be more hands-on and help people learn the importance of the native trees and help maybe do that in their own private yards.
great. Thank you.
All right. Well, on to our consent agenda. I will make a motion that we accept the minutes of the Board of Supervisors, March 13th, 2024 business meeting. All departmental, committee, commission, and council reports as posted and received by the Board of Supervisors for the month of March 31st, 2024. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Right on to the treasurer's report and payment of bills. I'll make a motion that we consider acceptance of the treasurer's report for period ending March 31st, 2024. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
Yes. So for the month ending March 31st, 2024, we had a general fund balance of just slightly over 5.1 million. Year to date, we are at 24% of our expenses and have realized 34% of our revenue in the general fund. Right on track for this time of year.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion that we approve disbursements dated April 10th, 2024. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
All of the bills have been reviewed and are recommended for payment.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to subdivision and land development. We have first up, Pravco Pinegood Wawa preliminary final land development application. The applicant is seeking preliminary final approval as well as the waivers listed in our agenda.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Furlong. I'm here. I'm an attorney with Riley Riper. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, PT Phoenixville LLC, related to proposed Wawa at the intersection of North Whitehorse Road and Valley Forge Road. I know the board is very familiar with this project. This is not the first time that's being presented to you, so I'll try not to go into too much of the details of the project. As you mentioned, there's a list of waivers that we are requesting in connection with preliminary final subdivision and land development plan approval, our request for plan approval, which are in a letter from Bowler dated March 13th. From what I understand, most of those waiver requests are not an issue. There's really about 2 waiver requests that have been identified that the board would like discussion on, from what I understand. That would be related to waiver for sidewalk for a portion of the property along North Whitehorse Road. That is section 320-24A1 of the Saldo. We requested this waiver in an abundance of caution. We actually believe that the board does not have to meet the waiver standard in order to grant us this relief. The specific language of the Saldo is actually that sidewalks are required, except where the board deems they are not necessary for the public safety and convenience. It's our position that this sidewalk would essentially be a sidewalk to nowhere. There's also many steep slope issues involved that our engineer is prepared to talk about here this evening. And secondarily, there is a request for a waiver from the requirement to provide curbing under section 320-23C1 of the Saldo. Again, this was a waiver that we requested in abundance of caution. This property for which we're seeking the waiver for is used as a commercial storage facility. And this section of the Saldo is actually relates to parking requirements for parking areas for automobiles. We don't believe that these equipment satisfies the level of an automobile. We are simply seeking the board's approval to have the property continue to operate as it is today. There will be a fence line that separates the 2 properties, so we also do not believe that the curbing is really necessary to protect the vehicles between the 2 parcels. With that, I would turn over to our engineer to discuss a little bit more about the project and any questions that the board has.
I'll just brief. Okay. So I think everybody is familiar with this project, but I will just run through it quickly. We're proposing to consolidate and subdivide. So this is an existing 4-lot area. We're making it 2 lots, with Wawa being lot 1 and total rental being on lot 2. The Wawa is just standard Wawa with 5 MPDs, 10 fueling positions. We have access to Valley Forge Road and North Whitehorse Road here.
I apologize. Do we have an electronic version that we could put up on the screen just for the public so they can see a little bit better than, do we have any?
I don't have that
Okay.
capability right now on the.
Okay.
So regarding the waiver specifically, the sidewalk waiver is to not provide sidewalk along Valley Forge on the frontage of Lot 2, where we are not currently proposing any new improvements. We are showing along Lot 1, providing sidewalk and an ADA ramp that just stops just short of the property line. And then the second waiver is for the curbing in this section of Lot 2, which is where they just store equipment for total rental. There is, as was mentioned, there is a fence separating the Wawa parcel from the total storage.
Can I jump in here? Chris, I'm Bill Brennan. We spoke today, and I advised you that when this project first came in, one of the first things that was disclosed to Debbie was that the sidewalks were important because coincidentally, the township is involved in a sidewalk project going from this location all the way up to the township line at Phoenixville. And it was good that we would have a portion of the sidewalk done as part of this project. Now, these are on-site requirements, and I made the point that if for some reason this waiver were granted next week, if the township wanted to go ahead with this piece of sidewalk, which is about 100 feet, the township would need to go to court for eminent domain and to pay you whatever it is to acquire the easement, and then the township would need to pay for the sidewalk under circumstances where, you're obligated, in my opinion, to put it in as part of the subdivision regulation. So, I understand there's an economic consequence to that, but taxpayers would hang all of us if we allowed this sidewalk not to be built and then had to pay for it out of their pocket next year or, in a shorter period of time. So I get it, but I have some legal concerns about, not following through and allowing it. So we had a good conversation today. It didn't get, unpleasant at all, but that's my position. You can persuade the board, if you wish. Similar thing with the curbing on the other side. There's a fence there apparently that separates the two properties. And the concern I raised was that, without the curbing, there's more of a likelihood that there'll be fence damage. And I know that's not really our concern, it's more Wawa's concern, but it's required. And if you can persuade the board, fine, but my recommendation to them would be, you're taking a risk if you don't require it. You going to fill in anything there?
No, I mean, the sidewalk, as Bill had mentioned, as Bill had mentioned, the sidewalk is a requirement, and with the connectivity that the township is looking towards, granting the waiver we'd have to go back and potentially condemn it, like Bill mentioned. And then the other item about the curbing in on lot number 2, just to get a visual for it. So the Wawa has curb line on their side, and then there's about 4.5 feet to the property line. Right before the property line, there is a fence. At the property line, the edge of pavement for the new total rental parking goes right up to the fence line, and that's where the concern was: that would equipment, vehicles, etc., go and back into damage. Granted, there's no benefit to the damage occurring, but the problem is when it does occur, it's going to look bad. How do we fix it, etc.? On the opposite side of lot number 2, going towards the mobile home park, there is actually there's about I think 4 feet to the there's a grass line and then goes to the property line before you get to the mobile park. So there is a little bit of grass in between that area. So if someone was backing up, there would be a visual cue. I know that there's a fence, but if you go a little under the grass, you'll crush the grass. If you hit the fence, you hit the fence. So that was the concern that was discussed.
So I think from a perspective of adding the sidewalks to in front of the total rental office, there's some difficulty there. It's not cut and dry, just put a sidewalk in. There's a telephone pole there. There's grading differential. There's retaining walls necessary. I mean, there's a substantial amount of work that needs to be done there. It's not just throw the sidewalk in and be done with it. And I think all along, I mean, we've cooperated with the township and everything they wanted to do, and all the amenities that we could put in, and plus all the offsite improvements that we could do here. I did talk to Chris today, Chris Cava. I just think this needs to be vetted out a little bit because it's not cut and dry. It's not easy. And we looked at it, and you're talking about a 3 to 4 foot retaining wall that would go in front of his property, and then the sidewalk, and then, jockeying around, a telephone pole and trying to make that work. So from an engineering perspective, it's pretty difficult. And then, in the back lot, when we're talking about the equipment parking, we had contemplated, blacktopping that, putting a grass strip in, and and a new fence that will obviously protect the whole property, and also adding plantings on the residential side of that property. So we didn't contemplate curbing that whole area because it's not truck parking and it's not vehicle parking, it's equipment parking. And if you go out to the lot now, it's all equipment. So it's not, they might bring a vehicle or two in there, but most of it is all equipment. So we weren't contemplating curbing that whole area, for sure.
So I'll start for the board. As far as the sidewalk, I do know that we've had long-term interest in sidewalk there. We will have a sidewalk there probably within the next couple of years, and if it's required with this project, we will, well, me personally, I would prefer go in with the project rather than wait, because this is a good time to install it. Eventually, we'll have a sidewalk that runs from the Phoenixville Borough line all the way down here, and so regardless of the challenges, I see that as kind of, if you're improving the property and doing subdivision, land development, it should be part of this project. As for the curbing, I'm not as strong on it, but I do like the idea of it along the fence line with your property line going through the Wawa, on like the, let's see, what is that?
We have it on the Wawa side.
On the Wawa side, and then also on the total rental side of that fencing, to protect that fencing, and just generally.
Want to point out that the equipment here.
Sorry, you'll have to use the microphone.
The equipment here is not, one, automobiles. Secondarily, I wonder whether or not curbing would even solve the issue that you're trying to prevent here, given that it's different types of machinery, different types of lengths, widths, et cetera.
I'll note that I'm not thinking short term, I'm thinking long term. Say total rental goes out of business, and then something that's not total rental moves in there. I don't know what's going in there. I'd rather have something in there. I couldn't explain what goes in there. It's a commercial district. They could put an office space in there. They could put something else. I mean, I'm gonna, I'll push back on that. I mean, I don't know what's gonna be there in 10, 20 years. And I like thinking longer term. So curbing there would be ideal.
Well, there's a curb on Wawa side. We just weren't contemplating curbing that whole area.
Mm-hmm. That's understood.
So,
I mean, you made that pretty clear. Yeah.
I think I'm willing to work something out on the sidewalks. I think it's going to be difficult, but I'm willing to work something out. I have to talk to Chris about, this is his property, so I have to work it out.
We have a time problem, Joe. It's, this is the last time for a vote on it. We're here to cooperate with you. We're moving this as fast as possible, preliminary and final, and as a favor, but we're trying to cooperate.
Yeah.
And so now you're saying, you got to work it out. They have to vote. So.
Well, I know. Bill, it was just presenting to me like 2 days ago. Yeah, so, okay, so we'll figure it out. How's that? And we'll say we'll do it. Okay, we'll do the sidewalk, but I'm asking for the waiver on the curbing in the back, in the fence.
I would look to the rest of the board for comments on that.
I just have a question, if you could explain the waiver request to exempt the granite curbs. Other than cost, what's the rationale for asking for a waiver for the granite curbs?
Typically, granite curbs are just not installed anymore. It's maintenance issues along with costs. Concrete curbing is just standard at this point, and it's everywhere else in this area is concrete.
No, I guess my only follow-up question would be, I mean, I obviously Schuylkill Township resident, and I have granite curbs. They lasted for 25 years in my neighborhood. Does our roadmaster have any opinion as to preference between, I mean, has he expressed anything to you, Lori, about preference between installing granite curbs versus cement curb? Or Paul, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I've never spoken to Nick about what his preference is, but as far as installing concrete curb as opposed to granite at a Wawa, I support that.
My comments are pretty much exactly what Mark suggested. Sidewalks, I am not in favor of giving that waiver. I'm not as strong about this curbing, but, you know, if our engineer and our township staff believe that this is something that's important, then I would support them.
Any additional comments from the board?
Before you vote, Mark, I'm sorry, there were a couple other topics that we just wanted to address
Oh,
briefly.
sure. I was just seeing if there's any on those two
On
items.
those
On those two items from the board, and then we'll go on to other ones.
Just a quick question on the fence damage that occurs. Who's responsible for fixing that? Would it be you all, Wawa?
Wawa would be responsible and they would fix it. I
They
mean,
would fix it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna leave a fence hanging over the property. There's no way.
Okay.
That's not the way they leave their properties.
Okay.
May I? Joe, the question of the liquor license has come up, and I know we're not the LCB, but just for identification purposes, is this something you're planning for this unit? You want to keep it an option open, or are there no plans for it?
So from a Wawa perspective, I've not heard anything about it, but they do want to leave their options open for that, for a beer license.
Laura, you had something about, the proposal indicates that there'll be a sign saying, "Welcome to Schuylkill Township" when they're leaving. So we have to adjust that to take the welcome off and have it just say
Whatever you'd
Schuylkill
like it to say.
Township. You had another sign that you were talking about?
Come back soon.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of passing through into and out of Schuylkill Town, I mean.
Right.
Go back.
All right.
Could I just?
Sure.
So just thinking about your comment, Mr. Donovan, about future uses, right? This property right now, this total rental property is not currently developed. If another use were to come in and a building go up, you'd be going through land development plan approval, be back before you again here to install that curbing that you would like. I would say for the purposes of this use, I don't know that it's an expense providing any benefit for this specific use. Also, just looking at the ordinance language itself, this section applies for automobiles, not commercial rental equipment, but.
Oh, thanks. That's a good point. Thank you. We'll get around. We'll get to it. Let's see. Any other comments from the board at this time on anything that's in front of us? From our staff, from our consultants?
working off of a resolution that's been revised a number of times. The resolution removes the two requests that were dealing with the curb and the sidewalk. And then additional conditions were added to the condition list. Number 10 is sidewalk shall be required to be installed pursuant to Saldo Section 320-24A1 on the total rental property on Route 23 on the west side of the Wawa property line for approximately 85 to 90 feet. It could be 95 to 97, but this should cover it, to the next property line. And then number 11, curbing shall be required to be installed pursuant to Saldo Section 320-23C1B on lot number 2 on the common property line between total rental property and the Wawa property to limit or avoid damage to a fence which is required to be installed. So that's the language. Does that cover the curbing? I think it does. It's just not on the.
If they,
Okay, all right.
if that waiver is
If they
not
choose to do
granted,
that, right.
correct, yes.
Now, we can modify this, so it's, you know, it's not written in stone,
Right.
but that's the
So-
draft that we're working from.
My recommendation would be, and you know, if you disagree, let me know, but my recommendation would be to work off of the agenda. All of the waivers that they're seeking are listed on the agenda. I would say we should go through them. You can vote all at once on the waivers, but for the purpose of the minutes and making sure that everybody is on the same page, that the public knows what we're talking about, we should go through the list.
I'll walk through that.
Okay.
I will.
And then you can pull out
I was
if you
gonna say,
want to.
I'll
Yes.
probably suggest
can
that we
make one
take the list,
motion.
we pull out those two items and make motions separately on the two items. And
That works.
Sorry. Good evening, Matt Hammond, Traffic Plan Design. One thing I'd like to point out, sounds like Joe is obviously willing to do the sidewalk along Valley Forge Road. But one of the things in 3/20/24 under sidewalks and curbs, A3 requires that the sidewalk should be located between the curb and ultimate right-of-way line 5 feet from the curb line. Now, coming 5 feet off the curb line along that frontage would have a significant impact on that property, more so than what we've talked about. It would affect our parking, have an effect on grades, those type of things. So what I would ask is if the board were so inclined, sounds like Joe is willing to do the sidewalk, that there be some relief in terms of the separation between the curb line and the sidewalk, maybe somewhere in the range of 2 to 2.5 feet instead of the 5.
I would make a note that that is a waiver that is being requested here. It's
That's
a waiver.
for North Whitehorse.
Oh, for North Whitehorse.
This is
But
for
not-
Valley Forge Road.
For not, yeah, all right, one
Yes.
second.
So you want the same relief that's approved in the other for this particular piece?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Less of an impact on lot 2.
How many feet so there's the waiver request, so how many feet are they asking for?
On North Whitehorse, it's curb and then sidewalk. There's no green space
There's
in
no,
between.
it's right up against it.
Correct.
There's no space whatsoever.
And that's what it would be on lot number 2, the total rental on Route 23. Valley
Well,
Forge Road.
I think
Is
that
there-
I think we can provide a small
could provide
grass
more?
strip
Okay.
along that frontage, because we have to go around that utility pole anyway. So I
Okay.
think we could provide 1.5 to 2 foot of grass area through there.
Okay.
I just wouldn't want to have a 5-foot strip, because then that's a more significant impact on lot 2.
Okay.
So we can provide some sort of separation between the curb line and the sidewalk on Valley Forge Road.
Okay.
Just rather not have to provide 5 feet.
That's a really busy road. I would have
Agreed.
a concern about the sidewalk being right at the curb.
Understood.
Yeah, we'll take
Thank
that
you.
comment. Thank you.
I'll suggest,
During motion.
I would suggest doing a motion.
Yeah.
Before you do the final.
We'll go ahead.
Hey, Paul, while they're discussing like potential language choices, the stormwater issues, stormwater waiver issues, can you just provide a brief overview of those two items? It doesn't sound like they're particularly controversial.
No, neither are. The first is a waiver from Section 310.25C3, which is about a basin pipe invert coming into it. The requirement is for it to be 6 inches above the the invert of the structure, so there's a little bit of a drop. The structures that they're proposing from ADS are these large chambers. I think there's a lot of them that they are installing. So, but you basically, it goes right into the mechanism itself, and they're all interconnected and things. So the way their design is prepared with the managed release system, that makes sense. You can't get that drop. The second one was for the outlet pipes to have a minimum grade of not less than 1%. They are proposing, let me just find out what it is here. I'm sorry, on my notes. I want to say it was, yeah, they're proposing at 0.5%. So it's less than the 1%. The one thing that we do note in our review letter is that it's a little bit below the normal velocity. The minimum flow velocity should be 3 feet per second. They're at 2.8. So what we just asked is that we support the waiver, just give a maintenance plan so that they go in there and make sure that there's not debris or sediment building up. It's, again, I don't have an objection to this.
And you've reached agreement with all of the neighbors on the landscaping plan? Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a motion on the first two waivers that were pulled out. And after the motion, we have the discussion, then we can have public comment during that discussion period. That's the typical way to do it. So that way it's focused discussion and it'll be specifically about those instead of kind of a general public comment. So we wanna keep it focused, we'll try and keep it timely, and we'll do it that way. Great. Any other discussion before we start working our way down the list? Okay. Let's see. I'll make a motion that we. How do we want to do that motion? Well, let's do just general discussion.
Is there a motion on the curbing waiver?
Do we have a motion on the curbing waiver? Would we like to? I'll make a motion that we allow the waiver from section 320.23C 1B to not provide curbing on lot 2. Do I hear a second?
Is it correct in your opinion that we can, a new applicant to redevelop that property would have to seek?
You need to.
Oh, sorry. It's your opinion that a new applicant to redevelop that property would have to seek, Paul, maybe this is a question for you, would have to seek approval. We could potentially put curbing on at that time if the lot use was to change?
Yes, if the lot use would change, yes. And if it's a commercial property, it goes to land development regardless.
Okay, I second your motion.
Any discussion from the board? Any comment from the public? On that specific item about curbing on lot 2, which is the total rental lot. Great. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Let's see. All right, to the next one. I will make a motion that we allow the waiver from. Let's see. Actually, I'm not gonna make that motion.
You can do one of two things here. You can have discussion.
We can have discussion on that.
And you could make a motion to approve the rest of the waivers, but pull that one out.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
You're seeking to do.
That is.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I need to read all of the waivers?
I don't think that you need to read them all out because they're published on the agenda.
Fantastic.
But
I will.
You should specify which one that is and.
Yeah, I was like, if you want me to read them all, I'll do it.
And
But
then just clarify the addition of that language.
Is there any other
5
addition?
foot. I didn't have any other.
Okay, great. I'll make a motion that we approve the remaining waivers on the agenda for Prophill Pine Good Wawa, exempt and pull out the waiver for section 320.24A1 to exempt sidewalks from being provided along all streets. I will also amend the waiver for the section 320-24A3 to exempt sidewalks from being located between the curb and ultimate right-of-way line 5 feet from the curb line to include the Valley Forge Road section that we were speaking about earlier. Do I hear a second?
It's like a compound.
So everything, yeah, so everything all the way down.
Yeah, but I was comfortable with that, but then you added the amendment of.
It's for, oh, sorry, it's right below the sidewalk one. It says another sidewalk.
It's the 5 feet.
For the 5 feet, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the sixth one down on our agenda
Okay. And we're amending that one.
to include Valley Forge because the resolution would, the proposed resolution would need to be amended to include Valley Forge
We're
Road.
including Valley Forge, but with the condition that on Valley Forge Road, they must provide a minimum 2.5 feet, right? We're not just letting them completely remove the 5 feet. They stated they can keep 2.5 feet. How many feet? 2 feet, yeah. You can keep 2 feet.
Do
I just
we-
wanna
do we
make sure
need to
we're
be
not
specific?
completely exempting them from that requirement, and then we end up with a sidewalk in Valley Forge Road that's right up against the curb.
Okay, you can specify it.
Okay, I would amend it to include the 2.5 feet discussed by,
2 feet.
or 2 feet discussed by the, 2 feet discussed by the traffic engineer. Thank you.
We're not going down to 1 foot, okay, so.
Can I make a comment
Wait, we'll get there. I will call on the public to make comment.
before that?
So
Any
we
other-
only have a first.
Any other amendments? All right, great. Do I hear a second on what we just discussed?
I'll second.
Okay, comment from the board? No additional comment from the board. Now we go to the public. Please come up to the mic, state your name, your address, and speak directly into, wait, there's the mic. Thank you.
Ellen Jansen, 15 Galway Lane. The 5 feet, if you've ever walked on a busy road where there's only 2 feet, try that down in Villanova and St. David's. People don't walk on it. They walk right to the bushes. They walk on people's yards because it's too scary.
Are you talking about the width of the sidewalk itself?
No, the between the sidewalk and the curb.
Okay,
That,
thank you.
that's supposed to be, that on this said 5, that it's previously 5 feet, but now to just be 2.5 feet. Pedestrians try it when there's no, when it's down to 2, and it's just going to be 2 feet. That's nothing on a busy road where people are charging along. Yeah, the speed limit's 45 and then 35 in some areas, but people go 50, 55. So that's a concern for me for safety. If we're concerned about safety in this township. I also have a general question. If there are 10 waivers requested, it seems that all of these issues would have been known at the very beginning when the project was proposed. Why weren't they addressed back then?
We're only taking comment, no questions.
Right, but okay.
That's a question. If you have a comment generally that we can consider.
Then my other comment is about the granite versus concrete curbs. I live in a neighborhood where concrete was approved. They're a mess. They crack, they break, they're chipped off, whereas the neighborhood across that has the granite curbs has been there for 25 years and the granite's fine. So, and it doesn't have any maintenance or anything. So that's my comment about granite versus concrete. And when you look at concrete curbs, they're a mess.
Thanks.
I just want to ask a follow-up question of applicant. You anticipate for the request for a variance for the sidewalks on Valley Forge Road were only for Lot 2 originally that you were presenting. You were asking for a variance of sidewalks for the Lot 1. I'm
Are you
trying.
talking about a waiver?
The waiver.
The waiver, yeah, thank you.
So are you anticipating, so for that entire Lot 1 and Lot 2 that borders 23, would the entire stretch of sidewalk only have 2 feet, or is the concern only where you need to get you're on Lot 2? It's challenging because I'm getting old and I can't see that.
It's only on lot 2. So
Okay.
along Valley Forge, only on lot 2 would we request the waiver to be 2 feet from the curb line.
So you'd be able to put 5 feet for most of that, and it's just that last 100 foot where you'd have a 2 foot space in between the curb and the sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that whatever our motion, that we're clear on that.
And along White Horse Road, you have so many.
In the microphone, sorry.
So just to clarify, to make sure that we all understand, so on lot 2, the 2 feet would apply just on that stretch in front of total rental. And then also along North Whitehorse.
Yes, and the motion was as discussed by the traffic engineer, and that would be captured in the minutes, and so that includes the fact that it is only on lot 2. Thank you. We don't have to amend them.
Which is approximately, what,
I don't have to
we're talking
amend
about 80 feet?
It's correct.
80 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, but just to follow up what you said, you're saying you can also put 2 feet on Whitehorse, or you're going straight to the curb? No, they're going straight to the curb.
Yeah.
On Whitehorse.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify. North White Horse has its curb and then sidewalk is right adjacent to it. There's no grass strip.
Is there any other public comment on the current motion? All in favor? Aye. Let's see, what else do we need to do on that one?
So now you're on the actual resolution.
Done.
for
Great,
preliminary
fantastic.
development approval.
Okay.
So here. We've already covered the waivers, so we're good on that. We don't have to do that. But we should go through the conditions. Oh, well, that whole thing. No, it's on this, it's crossing out.
Any other ones?
I would, and then if there are any others, like spillways, if there are any other conditions that you want to discuss, right? Oh, this one. You granted that waiver. So that was
Great, thank you. I will make a motion that we give preliminary final land development approval for Propco Pine Good with the following conditions of approval. Prior to the release of the plan for recording, developer shall revise the plan to comply with all outstanding comments in the engineering review letters to the reasonable satisfaction of the township engineer. Condition 2, prior to the release of the plan for recording, developer shall revise the plan to comply with all outstanding comments in the traffic consultant review letter to the satisfaction of the township traffic consultant. Number 3, prior to the release of the plan for recording, developer shall execute a stormwater management best management practices, operations and maintenance agreement, development agreement, and financial security agreement, and post-financial security in an amount approved by the township engineer and in a form and substance acceptable to the township solicitor. Number 4, prior to the release of the plan for recording, developer shall reimburse the township for all outstanding reasonable engineering, administrative, legal, and other review fees associated with the township's review of the plan. If developer disputes any of the review fees, the parties shall adhere to the procedures of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Number 5, developer shall secure all required permits and approvals from third-party agencies, including but not limited to a PennDOT highway occupancy permit and approvals from Pennsylvania DEP and the Chester County Conservation District. Number 6, developer shall install a sign on the property in accordance with the plan to the satisfaction of the Board of Supervisors. Number 7, developer shall comply with all conditions of approval outlined in the conditional use decision, the ZHB decision, and the revised ZHB decision. Number 8, non-material changes to the plan as determined in the discretion of the township engineer may be authorized by the township engineer as a field change without the further approval from the Board of Supervisors. Number 9, to the extent that any of the above conditions are determined to be invalid, the invalid conditions are severable, and the invalidity shall not affect the validity of the remaining conditions imposed. And number 10, sidewalks shall be required to be installed pursuant to SALDO section 320-24.A.1, close paren, on the total rental property on Route 23 on the west side of the Wawa property line. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have 2 more.
Oh, no, those are crossed out. That's why we're reading them all out and having that fun day.
Who got the second?
Bob.
Bob, okay.
So, any discussion from the board? Further discussion? Any comments from our consultants? Anything? Okay, and then I would open up comment to the public. Any additional comments on the approval for this land development application? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna write this up and send it out. We're gonna sign it somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next agenda item.
I'll just finish. Excuse me.
Oh, hold on.
Ryan? We're gonna make these.
Later, dude.
Great. The next item on the agenda is discussion on Sedgley Farms land development plans. The applicant's here to present and discuss and review recent changes made to the submitted plans and answer questions. The current deadline for preliminary land development is May 9th, 2024.
That'd be great.
That would probably be great. Thank you.
This is where.
Yep, and we'll just kind of keep it focused on changes to the plan since we last saw it, if we could. Thanks.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Todd Polig, president of Polig Builders, equitable owner under agreement of sale with respect to the Reeves 65-acre Reeves property. I'm also the agent for 876 East Phillip Drive, representing Select Sites, owner of that property. Here tonight with my development team to help answer any questions are Wayne Layton from Polig Homes, Jeremy Mazar from Chester Valley Engineers, the project civil engineer, John Snyder from Saul Ewing, our land use attorney, and Greg Richardson from Traffic Planning and Design, our traffic engineer. The project is a 51-lot single-family development titled Sedgley Farm. Note on the display plan is oriented with north to the right. The property is in the township's R1 zoning district just west of the Pickering Reservoir. This single-family development was initiated in 2006. There have been no major changes in this plan since 2009, when it received a recommendation for approval from both the Planning Commission and the township engineer, who at that time was John Sartor of Gilmore and Associates. In the fall of 2022, we resubmitted the by right plan. Given the significant time lapse, 2 new impacts became applicable to the project. Chapter 102, riparian buffer. Although the project falls under the 2006 Township ordinances, any new state laws apply. Originally, we had agreed to a 75-foot buffer to the reservoir with Aqua. However, a change in Chapter 102 now requires a 150-foot riparian buffer. Fortunately, we were very conscious of the impacts to the reservoir in our initial site layout, thus very little change to the home site and stormwater facilities due to Chapter 102. The bald eagles are present in the area. They're no longer listed as a threatened or endangered in Pennsylvania or the United States, but they're protected under the Bald Eagle and Golden Eagle Protection Act. And I'll have a little bit to say to that in a moment, from the change from the last time we were here. Eliminated the required quarter-mile radius restrictions and the reforestation requirement. In response to reviews by T&M Associates, the current township engineer, as well as comments from the Planning Commission, several plan adjustments were made in the February 14th resubmittal. And just really quickly, the T versus a Y intersection at the intersection of Sedgley Lane and Eagles Point. That removed the engineer's concern over potential conflict in traffic movements. A revised culvert design under Sedgley Lane that facilitates drainage along the neighbors' properties and captures stormwater from our entry road and manages it within the larger site, reducing stormwater volume entering the existing Dorchester system. Also, the elimination of proposed pump station on the south side is replaced with a low-pressure sanitary sewer system, environmentally more friendly. As I'm going to skip over that. Homeowners Association, I'll skip over that for now. Although several waivers and variances are requested to make the plan better, it's important to note that none are required for plan approval. We just believe they make the plan better. Considering the project's delay, we've updated information on soil infiltration testing, the flood study, a traffic study, stormwater management, PIND clearances, and wetlands. The study includes the aqua strip. We're still awaiting the requested new jurisdictional determination. It's anticipated very shortly now that the spring vegetation has emerged. The typical homeowner association responsibilities will be expanded to facilitate regulating access to East Phillip Drive residents only, no deliveries. Maintaining the stormwater management facilities, including ongoing clearing at the Sedgley Lane culverts. Maintaining the riparian buffer, including annual inspection with reports sent to the township and Aqua, and regulating lawn fertilizers, natural versus chemical. We met with the Historic Commission. They're interested in saving the 4-room tenant house and the garage in front of the carriage homes. As I understand, they're going to suggest the supervisor grant waivers and variances for use setbacks and impervious coverage to accomplish this. The waivers requested are cartway width, concrete rolled curves that will help facilitate stormwater management utilizing vegetative filter strips. The reserve strip, although we don't think it's actually needed, it eliminates double frontage lot questions for the Dorchester neighbors. Shade tree location only. Can't put the trees over the crossing. Those same amount of trees will be located elsewhere on the site. We're also requesting setbacks from property lines and right-of-way lines to facilitate better house siting. And for the, as I mentioned before, for the historic structures, setbacks and impervious coverage and use. There's a stormwater variance requested to facilitate stormwater as requested by Aqua. And then since the last time we were here before you, that was September 13th, 2023, 2 plan modifications have been made in response to new information. First, the plan has been adjusted for the new relocated eagle's nest on the west side of the reservoir. The nest was confirmed by our bald eagle consultants, David Moskowitz and Dan Brill from E. coli Sciences. The nest is located north of the inlet on the aqua property, a few feet from our property line. We have since coordinated with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service through Thomas Wittig. He's the Eagle Coordinator, Division of Migratory Birds, Northeast Region. And now with Zachary Layden, who's the Supervisory Wildlife Biologist of the Migratory Bird Program, Northeast Region. Restrictions for the nest are contained in an executed Northeast Bald Eagle Project screening form. The governing restrictions include a 150-foot no disturbance zone, a 175-foot no vertical structure zone, and a 330-foot timing restriction on clearing and loud exterior construction noise during the breeding season, which in our area is between January 1st and July 31st. Thus, construction of a part of our stormwater management basin A and the home on lot 8 will be impacted by the timing restriction. The second plan adjustment entails relocation of the open space made in response to the Township's EAC memorandum of September 26, 23, whereby it states the open space, if less than 4 acres, as it is in this case, must be located along the periphery so that if an adjacent parcel becomes available, the two can be combined into something larger and more usable. The only adjacent non-developed adjoining property is the Yoxmeyer property that's adjacent to the west side of the Reeves property at the stream. Saldo also requires the open space to be accessible from a public street with frontage necessary for access, visibility, and safety, able to accommodate pedestrian, bicycle, maintenance, and vehicle traffic. The proposed emergency access provides for all those requirements. The EAC concluded and previously stated the open space as it was located previously should be reconfigured in a more appropriate location. This new location allows for a proposed play area, gazebo with benches adjacent to the wildlife corridor along White Horse Run. And the emergency access drive provides for off-street parking, maintenance, and vehicle parking. And the stormwater easement provides for drainage at the parking and play area, thus improving usability during all seasons. The open space also takes advantage of the openness provided by the conservation easement on the adjoining Kovalovich property. We reviewed those 2 changes with the Planning Commission last month. To resolve open items, we have provided a revised traffic impact study dated April 4th, 24, by Traffic Planning and Design, and a response to the Township's traffic consultant safe March 26 review. To address requests in the T&M 315 letter, we delivered to the Township highlighted revisions to the plan set dated 4/5/24, as well as additional plan sheets to clarify questions such as fire truck auto turn. Trust you received the April 4th letter from John Snyder to Mr. Brennan, the Township Solicitor, that included revised in red September 6th letter and memorandum, and our response in red to the T&M 4th review dated March 15th. These represent our understanding and position and response to all the open items. Our team is here this evening to answer any questions. Thank you. Surely.
one of the proposals that's made is to create a gated private access to East Phillip with the restriction that it be residence vehicles only. To have that private gated facility, you need a waiver from the road requirements. Otherwise, the plan shows that as an ungated street. But our request for a waiver is to build it as the private gated form.
Can I start where you finished, John? Is this a new waiver request?
It's not new in that it's, that was on sheet 43 forever.
Oh, all right. It's in the, so it's not something new. I mean, I was gonna ask you to put it in writing and submit it, because we're not gonna know what you're talking about. You've seen what happens with waivers here, so I don't wanna get stuck in that.
Well, that sheet 43 has a listing of all the waivers.
All right, all right, okay.
But that has been slightly reconfigured to make sure that it was gated in both directions, and a note added that it would be, you know, we would accept the condition of it being for resident traffic only.
Is that the only waiver? In other words, are you, forgive me, but are you seeking?
Listed the waivers before, street width, things like that.
All right, but they're not really necessary, you're saying, are they, or are they?
Well, none of them are necessary because we would build it as a ungated street without the waiver. That's what we're saying. The waivers, we believe, provide a friendlier plan.
Are you going to provide a list of waivers, though, like we dealt with before, or just say point to the plan and they're in the plan? I mean, I just
Well,
don't.
they're not just in the plan, they're listed on the plan.
Okay, all right.
The gate is shown on the full plan set. It's not just on the alternate. It's within the body of the plans. It's not just an alternate.
Yes, but it's shown on the body of the plan, but it's also shown as a street on the plan.
Okay, I'm just, on the plans that we last revised, I know we had the recent submission just the other day, but when we did get the last go-round in February, the gate was changed. It used to be just a wide road, the East Phillip connection. Now there's, like, I want to say almost a boulevard, there's a turnaround, there's a gate. That's why I just want to be clear for the supervisors, that is on the plan. It's not just on the alternate page.
Well, but it's on the plan as a waiver. There is, what you got on February, when was this?
16th.
16th, added back the straight through, because after discussion with the Planning Commission, after discussion here, it seemed clear to us that the preferred plan was to have it gated. So the engineer put the gated plan on the regular plan sheet. But there's also the non-waiver straight through road section, which would be what we would have to build if you didn't grant that waiver.
Okay.
May I speak up just for a second? That sheet was included in the new plan set.
We see a gate, there's two gates listed. Okay. Sorry, I have the sheet, because I can't, it takes forever to download the.
That's right. They are shown, but what I'm trying to explain is that there's also the straight through on the alternate sheet that came in on the 16th, because if you don't grant the waivers to have the gates, then we can't build them, and we have to be able to build the straight through street.
So you flipped the alternate with
Yes, yes, because it was easier, because everybody's talked about the gates, so why continue to have the plans, main plan set show a straight through street if that's what nobody really wants? as long as we have it somewhere on the plan so that if you don't grant the waiver, we can build it as a straight-through street.
Todd, you said, may I continue? You said something about variances, and my ears perked up. Are you?
Oh, he said he was talking about stormwater. It was a waiver request. He misspoke. I can tell you that.
I heard the word variance.
Okay, yeah, that's, it's a,
did say it.
yeah, it
What's
should be,
going, what did you mean by that? Is this the historic thing, or is there something else?
no, this would be, what I'm talking about is Aqua wants us, to, if we can, put the stormwater discharge outlets down on their property. That'll be in the flood hazard district. I think the way it's written in your ordinance, that's the township engineer can allow stormwater facilities in that area. But again, that's what I'm talking about there is making sure that whatever's required, that we can put those outlets, provided we obviously get permits, and Aqua needs to give us the right-of-way, easement area for construction and maintenance.
Right, zoning hearing board takes, whatever it takes, 90 days, 120 days. And obviously, you're not talking about that time. So what do we do with the not gonna ask John, but what do we do with the big picture now of all this? If you say, well, we got this waiver over here, this variance over here that we might need, maybe not, but we might. How is that to be handled?
Okay, so I think the only, John, if I'm not mistaken, the only place we need a variance would be on the historic properties. And I think what we said we'd do is we'll move forward with trying to get those. And if not, in the alternate, we would need, John, what's it called?
A special exception. We would have needed a special exception to take them down. We indicated that we would accept a condition that says we would apply in the alternative for the variances to leave them. And, we would provide in the alternative to the zoning hearing board for the variances to be able to leave them. And if denied, the conditional use to take them down. But those would be after preliminary approval.
After the fact.
Yeah.
I understand that one. I'm back to the question of Aqua. If Aqua requires something that needs a variance, what do we do?
I believe what it says is we need the approval of your township engineer.
That's the variance?
That's what I believe that section says, that to have those structures down there, you can have them with the approval of the township engineer.
That's zone?
In the zoning ordinance, I think,
zoning
is that
ordinance?
what it says.
Sorry, I'll have
So
to look in
I
that.
don't know that there's a variance needed. There would be approval from the township engineer needed, and that's certainly not going to occur without Aqua being the party requesting it. Our problem with Aqua is, and for those who were here at the Planning Commission meeting, they were here, they had some of their engineers here. We all agreed that we would get together and the engineers would meet. We've given Aqua a number of dates. We don't even hear back from them. We don't hear a response saying, we'll get back to you and tell you which one works. We hear silence. So I don't know how, that we can do anything more.
I understand that, and I get where Aqua is. They're not DEP, but the last letter we have from them, and I don't have the date in mind, but they say in words or in substance that they don't like this or opposed to it or something like that. I'm sure you have the letter. So as we sit here today, 1 month before D-Day, decision day, we don't know where Aqua is.
And we don't, and you don't need to know where Aqua is,
Well,
because Aqua is not a ordinance section of yours. If Aqua doesn't want to proceed and participate, if we comply with your ordinances, then Aqua's a moot question. We have worked with Aqua. We started way back in January with tons of emails through council, with emails from engineers to engineers, and they were here and sounded very cooperative at the Planning Commission meeting. we talked about dates, and then Jeremy sent a follow-up specifying dates, and we don't get anything back.
I don't want to do this here, but it gets complicated, but there's the riot on zoning, and they deal with these, emergency or public safety situations, such as to open the door a bit to that as being a public issue, even though it's not in the saldo or the zoning ordinance. And I know where you're going with this, but all I'm saying is that, it may be a legitimate concern, maybe it's not, I don't know, but all we know is that
It may be a concern, but it may not be a reason upon which you can act. We're trying to address the concern. It takes two people to address it. If we don't have another party to address it, it's not a reason that you can turn us down.
all right, I don't want to get into this now, but it is 11.213, and you can look at it, and then we can talk. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying that you need Aqua's approval, for anything. I mean, you have your contract, and we're not involved, and we don't care to be involved.
11.213 of Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, I will look at that.
Are there any other questions on Ryan? I'm sort of monopolizing this, and I was hoping that I wouldn't have to tonight. I'm too tired. Anything else on the on Aqua?
Well, I guess my one question was, in reviewing the response that we got on Friday, April 4th, one of the comments that talks about the Aqua and everything like that referred us back to items 11 and 12, and item 11 in a memo from September says the applicant has met with Aqua, its counsel and engineers have resolved all of Aqua's issues. It seems very contradictory. I assume that's no longer.
That's where we thought we were, and then Aqua came in and wrote a letter and showed up at a meeting without having called us and said, hey, where are we, or anything like that. And so from that, we knew we had a problem, and from that point, we have been trying to address Aqua. We've worked through council, letters, emails, agreements from council. Yeah, we ought to get together. We ought to discuss. Yes, the engineers ought to meet first so that the parties don't have to be involved in engineering discussion. We get all of that, but then when we send them dates and ask for dates, we get silence.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just was confused because when I was reading this and going back and forth, I thought that perhaps that you had the opportunity. So thank you for the clarification.
Is there red underneath that?
I don't have the red under that. I just have a black version.
May I jump to another topic?
Okay. I have one question. So, and I know you haven't had an opportunity to speak with Aqua, but there is this, these two high pressure water main lines, right? Is there, and there'll be prohibitions obviously on certain activities on top of them. In fact, they just went through and cleared last year. Are you anticipating any sort of restrictions for the lots for these to confirm that the homeowners understand that they cannot build any structures?
Yeah, they'll be in an easement. They'll be on their deeds and marked on
Okay.
their lots.
Okay, so
It'll be in the deeds.
It's surprising how many people don't realize that they have underground facilities on their properties.
Paul, do you not have the April 6th memo with the red additions to it?
September 6th, I think I just found it. Yes.
Okay, because that paragraph 11 has an explanation of what I just said to you in that memo.
Understood. Thank you.
Todd, the open space that's going to be connected to the other opens. This is new on the plan for the first time.
This is new. As I mentioned, that was not on the plan in September of last year when I was here.
All right. There's sometimes some misunderstandings about what's open space and what isn't, and I came across the case that Mr. Snyder's familiar with, the Goshen Holding Company case. I don't want to have any misunderstanding about what can happen to that in terms of it being open space. So I'm presuming that conditions would be appropriate, saying they'll never be built on, it will never be commercial, never be sold, and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and your ordinance is very clear. We either have to offer it to you or put it in the homeowners association. So it will go into the homeowners association, and it will be restricted as you just indicated.
All right.
Wait, May I just follow up on that? With like a conservation easement to the township?
It could have a conservation, it could have just an easement to the township if you
Or a
want.
deed- or a
I
deed
mean,
restriction?
conservation easement, we wouldn't be looking for some sort of tax break on it. So people think of conservation easements and they're a tax issue. We're not talking about that. If you want an easement to the township as open space, that's fine. Put that as a condition.
Okay. And I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I do have questions about the open space, but you were about to ask a question, Bill.
No, that was just really, I want clarity, and I don't want to have a situation where open space means, doesn't mean what it sounds like, and somebody ought to be thinking about whether playground equipment goes in there or not, and I mean, there's time to do all that, but that's, it does get a little bit complicated.
Mr. Polig, would you mind just showing where the open space has been
Surely.
moved? Because I wasn't sure that there was, I wasn't clear where the open space was initially.
Initially, the open space was in this corner, the
Okay.
would be the northeast corner.
That's isn't that a stormwater management?
There's stormwater management there now, yes.
Yes.
Okay. The only area on the periphery of our property that had undeveloped ground was this lot right here
Okay.
by the Yoxmeyers. So it's west, on the
Okay.
west side, right where the stream is.
Okay, so if I'm looking at your plan, Lot 7 is still proposed to be a stormwater management area, and I'm having a hard, is it Lot 40? Is it a numbered lot? Is it Lot 43 that's now?
This is 41, 42, 43, and this is just open space.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, so it's not a numbered lot.
It's not a numbered lot.
It's not a numbered lot.
No, and as a matter of fact, on this plan, we're showing the play area where the gazebo and benches would be. We're showing where the proposed stone parking would be, and where that's part of the existing stone driveway, and that could be where a maintenance vehicle could be parked if they're in off there. So.
So what I'm looking at is it's HOA number 1 is how you have.
I believe on the plan it'd be,
Okay, so
yes.
HOA number 1 is the open space. And so that's been moved from Lot 7, but Lot 7 is still stormwater management.
That's correct.
So is it, I don't want to say it's additional, but it feels like you've added a open space area. There's not maybe I'm confused.
The comment that was made at the EAC meeting was that open space should be something where people could go to.
Okay.
You cannot have access to a stormwater management facility.
So previously you were counting that stormwater management lot as open space, and now you've specifically designated an additional parcel? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm
Yes.
just trying to understand.
Yes, we moved it. Actually, there was a location back here. I had thought that would be a good place for a gazebo overlooking the water.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things about that that don't match up with what the EAC wanted for open space. So since we were redoing this area because of the eagle, we just decided to move the open space to this location.
Okay.
And I think it makes a lot more sense there. And by the way, that the Kovalovich property here has about 17 acres that's restricted from future development. So this open space sort of is next to that and adjacent the vacant lot. And so for a lot of reasons, it does make sense to put the open space there.
Does that mean that 7 is becoming a buildable lot with a large stormwater management basin?
There'll be an easement on the property for stormwater management, right? In the end, the usable area, lot 7, will be very, very typical.
Okay, so it's going to be a kind of an oversized lot with a house on it, but with a large portion of it being a stormwater management.
In an easement area for
Facility.
stormwater management
Is
facility.
is that
Correct.
easement going to provide for the HOA to manage the stormwater area, or is it going to
Yes.
be?
No,
okay,
the
thank you.
HOA is going to be maintaining.
I was worried about the lot owner having to.
Pardon me?
I was worried about a lot owner having to maintain
No.
a stormwater base.
No, the homeowners
that
association
around
will be
before,
required
yeah.
to handle all the stormwater maintenance.
So on the HOA one you were just talking about, is that your emergency access dividing the property?
Yeah,
Dividing
the
that
open space of the property is really this left half side of this HOA one. But yes, that is the current stream crossing and the driveway and the existing stone driveway is that right now. So that existing culvert and stone driveway will be an emergency access.
And it's lot 8 that has the Eagle's Nest?
Yeah, so this might help a little bit. I'll just point it on the plan. This is the location of the Eagle's Nest. There are, the green line is a 150-foot no disturbance area. There is 175-foot, which is the red line, where there's no vertical structures. So you could have underground structures in there, but no vertical structures. And then this blue line represents a timing restriction, so that this house, number 8, as well as part of the stormwater management system, can't be built during a certain time, during the breeding time.
Are those restrictions, are those setbacks only during breeding time, or are any of them?
Just the timing. The other ones are permanent. In other words, the no disturb zone and the no structure zone are permanent. And the next section up to between the red line and the blue line is the timing restriction. No loud noises during the breeding season, no clearing during the breeding season.
So the green line is permanent.
Yes.
The red line is not permanent.
No, the red line
Is also permanent.
is also permanent.
Okay. So it creates a very large lot for lot 8, but without a lot of usable area for the lot owner. Did you ever consider just cutting your lot line a little bit short to create another open space parcel there?
Hadn't considered that.
My only concern is, once you have a homeowner there, who's going to police the restriction, the restrictions on the setback from the Eagle's Nest? If that,
Right.
We have seen people who purchase properties now believe it's their property, and unless you're going to put a game warden out there, it's challenging to police those things in perpetuity.
Understood. 2 things about that. I'll just kind of go let you know. The 150-foot line, which is this black line, the 150-foot riparian buffer, will actually have actual signage on the property saying that's the 150 line, and we're going to have an annual inspection, and the results of that inspection will go to the township as well as Aqua.
Who is the we for we will have an annual inspection?
That'd be homeowners association.
HOA? Okay.
Yes.
There's a little of that non-disturbance area that extends past that riparian buffer.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't just carve it out into separate parcels so that it's not?
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
Long term, maybe 50 years from there, the Eagle's gone somewhere else, in which case we wouldn't need that restriction.
I'll speak real loud so he doesn't have to run the mic over.
It's for the recording.
It's for the recording.
It's not for our benefit, yeah.
Here you go, John. I get some exercise.
Trust me, John, no one's asked me to ever speak louder in my life, but I still use a microphone.
Okay, the other problem is you would be creating a landlocked parcel. And with cul-de-sac length and everything, we couldn't run a road down to create a parcel that would be an open space parcel there. So it needs to be part of the larger parcel with frontage. and have easement on it.
I had another question, may I? I don't mean to. John, I have a question about timing again. We keep doing this waltz about when the deadline is, and you've been good, you keep moving it back, but we got a huge amount of documents on April the 4th. The traffic impact study was 325 pages. Now, I know a lot of that's repetitive, but it has to be looked at. And there's a mountain of stuff. And this is the last meeting before, the public meeting before the decision. So I guess my question, and I wrote to you about this, I mean, we asked for 30 days. And I understand, I get how, you know, you've had enough, I've had enough. But
No, it's not just that. We also have another applicant that hasn't been at these meetings, that is, after 17 years, 18 years, reasonably reluctant to try and keep moving the goalposts. And so it takes us doing a lot of convincing with the family to be able to extend. So I can't tell you tonight. I told you that we would see where we were tonight and what we had gotten. I can tell you in that volume, most of that volume is the T&M comments. Our comments are only the comments in red, and if you had pulled them out, probably would have been no more than 3 pages.
No, it was more than that. It was more.
No, 3 pages of straight writing of red.
All right, I mean, look, the board's gonna do whatever it has to do. I'm just pointing out that this is a lot to digest in a short period of time. And we mentioned this when we were together last time, that, you know, we can't go in that night and decide and write it up that night. It's due the next day. We'll be here all night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll figure it out. I'm just pointing it out that that's a concern of mine.
Yeah, and it may be that one of the other answers is we grant a waiver on the time in which the written decision comes down. I mean, that's another possibility. I'm not suggesting that tonight, believe me. We want to see where we are, and we want to try and make sure that we get this done right. At the September meeting, you made it very clear that anything that dealt with preliminary plan, you wanted resolved at preliminary plan instead of any conditions that said that would be resolved before final. So that was part of what went into that February packet that we submitted. And then with the March review letter, the few things that we've given you again are things that we heard from Paul, that if they have any chance of being related to a preliminary plan requirement, we've tried to resolve them all.
But there are still things that are pushed back to final. There's a lot of stuff that's.
But they are final things.
They are final things. All right, okay, but there's a lot of stuff that, you know, is dealt with there. I think the only one that really needs to be dealt with is the JD, and I get it that they won't respond to you. So what does the township do if a JD is a clear requirement? What do we do?
Well, what you've done in the past and what you just did earlier tonight is that you passed preliminary approval with a condition that the engineer's letters be resolved to his satisfaction. We're trying to resolve them to his satisfaction before you vote. But if there's one thing that's a third-party requirement that we applied for 9 months ago and don't have because the third party hasn't issued it, we would hope that the board, in reason, would say, well, that's a condition, you got to give us that, especially since that JD relates to not wetlands on our property. It's to determine the wetlands on the Aqua property to see whether they create any margins, wetland margins on our property. But we already have provided a 150-foot buffer. So the fact that they would create anything beyond from a disturbance standpoint is absolutely remote. So that's what we would hope if you don't have that. But we're after Aqua all the time. We're after our consultant all the time. We've been told that, not Aqua, Army Corps. And we've been told that it's a wait for the blossoming at, the budding at, in the spring so that they can determine the plant part of the three-step process of what's wetlands. So we're at that point now. We would expect that hopefully we'll have it by the 8th of May.
I only have one more question, I promise.
Sure.
Driveways. Saldo and the zoning ordinance say a private driveway is a private cartway providing for vehicular and pedestrian access between a public street and a parking area within a lot or property. And you've explained this a number of times, but I can say I've never fully understood it. A driveway is permitted as a accessory use on a residential lot. However, a driveway would not appear to be appropriate for a private access road. Now, I know you have your answer. Tell us again, if you would, and explain how driveway fits into what this.
I don't care if you call it a gray goose. What you call it is unimportant. We have a requirement for a road. We've provided a solution that is better for the neighbors and is acceptable to us, that doesn't go and take a public street and put gates on it. That would be inappropriate. So we've created a thoroughfare that is going to be privately owned, that is going to have the gates. If you call it a waiver from the definition of driveway, which is in the ordinance, if you call it a waiver from private, I don't care what you call it a waiver from. It's something that you can approve if you think it's better. And if not, then we'll have to build it as a street. And I don't think any of us right now want to see it built as a street. So I would not get hung up on the definition of driveway or private street or whatever, because you're being asked to grant a waiver from your subdivision regulations to allow it to be built this way. That's the way I see it.
I'm just going to make a note. We're going to take public discussion or public comment after this discussion. Just hold on for a moment if you have any questions, comments.
Just a question. Again, with the by right plan, we have lots, we have roads, we have open space, and we have that new piece of open space over there. But we do have again, the reserve strips going along Sedgley Lane, which are prohibited, and they're shown as HOA-owned land.
Yeah, they're not prohibited, Judge Nagel, because of the testimony of your own township engineer that said that you don't read that section in concert with reverse frontage lots. Micah. And he, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Wish we had two. Judge Nagel's decision clearly said that in the other side of the street, the creating of that 1 foot strip with respect to the Wells Road or whatever it is lot was not prohibited, and cited the township engineer saying that you don't read them together. So the fact that this is the other side of the street, but is the same exact factual situation, I don't buy the fact that it means that the exact factual situation is treated different legally. It's the Judge Nagel already ruled on that.
John, for those who haven't read the paperback version of the saga of this development, you're referring to a decision from Judge Nagel
in 2010.
In 2010, okay,
Yeah.
which was a permutation of like this.
It was this application.
Yes.
we needed to file variance applications and special exception applications for the road crossing. We needed to, there was, at the time, the township engineer was raising questions with respect to certain sections of the subdivision ordinance. We filed validity challenges to them. We had gone to the zoning hearing board first for the relief from the zoning hearing board that was granted. The township appealed that grant, and we appealed the fact that the zoning hearing board said that it didn't have the jurisdiction to decide validity of subdivision ordinances. Judge Nagel found in our favor on that second one. He affirmed the variances and special exception was granted. And then with respect to the sections we challenged, some of them he said, well, you don't read them that way, so you can't apply them that way, so they're not invalid. And
When you said we don't read them that way, you mean that you're arguing like an estoppel argument, that we're stopped from?
the township was arguing that, we were arguing that, for example, your section that says that the ground surface of easements has to be grass. And yet we have easements that are across roads, under roads. We have easements that are access driveways to utilities. So how do you build an access driveway but make sure that the surface is grass? And Judge Nagel said, well, you just don't read it that way. You read it that where you've got something that a homeowner can plan on top of, he's got to have grass. So he didn't invalidate that section. He said it just doesn't restrict it the way that you're afraid it would be restricted.
Okay, I think I understand your argument. You're not saying we as in, your use of pronouns.
Yes.
One does not.
One does not.
Okay.
John, if I can on that, I've got Judge Nagel right here.
Yep.
Page 21.
On the line.
22.
Yep. Hold on, let me open it up because I've got it right here also. Okay, and you're saying?
Page 21.
Yep.
About 3/4 of the way down. The thrust of this challenge relates to the proposed development's access street from Valley Forge Road, which is adjacent to the rear of one or more parcels of land in the adjacent Belmont Terrace development. Now, Belmont Terrace then, as now, is sort of a no man's land. There's no road there. There's not a row of houses back there. I think there's one house.
There's one lot that abuts the panhandle.
All right, but let Bill finish. Page 22, halfway down. The adjacent Belmont Terrace parcels are not contiguous with, nor do they front on the developer's new access street. Hence, they are not double frontage lots that would preclude approval of developer's proposed access street. Accordingly, developer has not proven the challenged sections are unreasonable. Conversely, the township's objection to the street, if any, is without legal basis. So I think he was saying that since Belmont Terrace is not on a street, there are no double frontage lots for that reason, but I have trouble with moving this argument over to Dorchester, which is a very different situation than what I call the no man's land of Belmont Terrace. You follow me?
You didn't read the middle of it, which is exactly dealing with the access, the buffer strip.
Which pointed out.
Saldo 508A prohibits reserve strips controlling the access to streets, alleyways, subdivision, or adjacent areas.
I'm sorry, John, where are you?
I'm on page 21.
Well,
Above where you started.
Okay, I got it, okay.
A reserve strip is a parcel of land separating a street from adjacent properties or marginal access. A marginal access is a frontage road lying parallel adjacent to a highway, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Examination of the plan reveals that the proposed street right-of-way is not contiguous to these other parcels and lies within the bounds of developer's property. Developer intends to buffer the area between the new street and these properties, but claims these sections, when read together, preclude the access, both the access street and the buffer. I'm skipping a sentence. The township engineer testified that the challenge section should not be read together in reviewing Saldo plans and believes the issue is governed by section 505C, which precludes only double frontage lots. So basically what you had is you had a lot that we put a 1-foot strip to buffer our street right-of-way from our own property line.
But those strips were not present in this year. They were just put on the new plan.
No. There was a strip back then. That's what he said. Our street right-of-way was not contiguous with our lot line, our parcel line.
All right, well.
So there were no double frontage lots, and the township engineer testified that the section dealing with prohibiting the strips, what do you call them? What does he call them?
Reserve strips.
Reserve strips didn't apply. And so the judge found that because that didn't apply and we didn't touch, our right-of-way didn't touch, we weren't creating
That was because in Belmont Terrace you couldn't touch.
Oh,
There's
we
nothing
could.
to
There
touch.
was a lot that would have been, there is a lot that abuts our property on Belmont Terrace or on Wells.
I'm gonna read it again, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
The bottom line on this, in my opinion, is so that we don't hamper the people on Dorchester, is to resolve this instead of letting a legal thing for them down the road. A simple waiver was suggested by the planning commissioner for the 1-foot strip. If we do that, then, and that's a waiver, and we're able to put our road in, we haven't messed up those potential properties with this issue.
What if a future buyer comes in and has trouble because they have 2 frontage lots and they want to put a pool and the setback is different from the front or the back? I mean, what do we do then?
Well, that's why I'm saying if we get a waiver and allow the 1-foot reserve strip, we've solved that for that person down the road. If we don't, then that could be an issue for them down the road. And in discussion with the planning commission, their thought was a waiver for the 1-foot strip solves that in the future.
Bill, our plans, we believe rightly under your ordinance, we don't have any lot in Dorchester, Wells Road, Belmont Terrace. We don't have any lot that abuts our street right-of-way. So there is no neighboring property that abuts on a street, has frontage on our streets. Now, we think, as Judge Nagel described, that is the way the ordinance is to be read. The Planning Commission said, instead of fighting over that, why don't you, in the alternative, request a waiver so that the township can simply grant a waiver and not have to fight over whether what Judge Nagel's decision meant. We get to the same place.
Aren't you going in the back door, though, and really ultimately legalizing these strips, which the ordinance says are invalid or unlawful, right?
Judge Nagel said that your township, he says your township engineer testified they don't apply.
Not that directly, but okay, I understand. I think I understand a little better. All right. I'm interrupting. Who's next? No.
I mean, I guess another thing, the retaining wall on Segley Lane within the right-of-way. I know that you have contested that. Judge Nagel said that is acceptable based off the zoning decision, but in the decision as I've read it, or the zoning decision, they're talking about the flood hazard district, steep slopes, et cetera. That all applies to the big bridge that goes along Eagles Point. There's no steep slopes and there's no flood hazard district on Sedgley Lane.
Just so you know, that big bridge is a culvert. That big bridge is a culvert has retaining walls.
Well, it's referred to as a bridge all throughout the zoning decision.
But you tell me definitionally what it is. It doesn't have a span. It has dirt above the opening. It's a culvert. And that culvert has retaining walls. And the retaining walls, I imagine there are retaining walls and culverts all around this township. Those are in the right-of-way. The section you're citing, Paul, says to property owners, you can't build a fence or a wall and put your fence or wall in our right-of-way. That's what that section means. It means that if you're going to have a fence, your fence has to be back from the street far enough to be on your property. It has nothing to do with the construction of the road itself. And this is a retaining wall for the construction of the road.
Yeah, any board questions? Additional?
I'm sorry, could I ask one more?
Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
go ahead.
I know that there's, on Sedgley Lane, that there's some drainage that's going through, and the drainage ultimately evacuates onto two lots in Chapel View Estates. I think it's lots 3 and 4. There is an existing impoundment basin structure there, and there's a gap between the riprap, et cetera. And, you know, I've noted, has there been any kind of agreement with these property owners? Because you're not the beneficiary of it. Has there been a maintenance agreement, anything in perpetuity? Just
I met with the neighbors. We agreed to redo the riprap from our riprap that we're doing for our culvert all the way to the head wall of their culvert. So we've agreed to do that. We've also agreed to put a different style trash rack on that, one that's got an angle on it that would have a little bit more forgivability. And we can do that within the existing easement of stormwater easement that comes over to our property. So I think that's all very doable. The good news about this is there's about 5 acres of off-site drainage that goes into that head wall going through Dorchester. Mm-hmm. And we're able to take our plans take about 5 acres of that away. So that'll be a lot less going into that. And we raised the elevation of our entry road such that we can drain the whole entry road back into our stormwater system on our site. And that, again, causes a little bit of this wall needing to be built there.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Pogue, you have no concerns with conditioning approval on you fulfilling your obligations with respect to that?
No problem with that.
Okay. I presume also that there's a significant elevation difference between the Reeves tract and the Chapel View Estates neighborhood. I mean, it's visible. I'm assuming you're going to be doing all grading appropriate to address the stormwater so there's no runoff.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the plans. Could you just please remind me, because I think this has gone a couple different ways. The sidewalks on maybe looking at the wrong one. Sedgley Lane?
Yes, on the entry road? Yes.
What is currently proposed? I'm looking at the plans and I don't quite see.
Okay, yes. We are proposing on Sedgley Road, that's the entrance road, comes from Route 23 back into our site. We're proposing a sidewalk on the west side
Okay.
of that. And And we were asking for a waiver on the width of that road. So, you know, our thinking is we could have a 24-foot wide road there because there are no, until we get into our property, because there are no driveways, just going back and forth on there. And to the extent that that's 24-foot or 28-foot versus 32-foot, allows us to put more buffering between, and the retaining wall would be less because we can grade up, and we can do more buffering. So we can build it with 32-foot wide road, but a waiver certainly would be, in my opinion, the thing to do to add buffering to the back lots along Dorchester. And, you know, each 4 foot adds that much more buffering and less retaining wall. Did that answer your question?
Yep. And those, the sidewalks, I know there's very little road frontage on Valley Forge Road, but there, you can see we're fans of sidewalks to nowhere. Would you be extending the sidewalks to the extent that you can onto?
Yeah, we have I think we have about 75. I'm happy to put a sidewalk along 23 right at the front there. That's nothing. So now we have, obviously it'll be back in because there's a turn lane coming in. So, but I have no problem with that.
I would invite our traffic consultant to make comment if she has any. Anything you'd like to comment, discuss, or anything that hasn't been brought up, or if you want to comment on anything that's been said, if you want to grab that mic.
Well, Hi, I haven't heard too many comments specifically related to traffic so far. I know Mr. Richardson's here. It seems like he's going to make a presentation, so, or no?
No.
Says no. So I know that I have received the revised traffic study, had a little bit of time to look it over. I was interested to see what new information, or I was told there would be, you're gonna point me to other guidance or other materials. No, not true.
Well, the response letter references, again, just like we responded to the comments, we responded that we revised certain things in the study to address the comments. So that's, we didn't pull it out in red like Mr. Snyder did, but we certainly, if you need to jump on the horn and we go through each one of the comments, so it's not looking through 300 pages, but we believe we've addressed all the concerns that were presented in March 26th letter.
Okay, then I do have a couple follow-up questions. The April 4th traffic study, has that been submitted to PennDOT with HOP plans or no?
No.
And what is the status of the HOP plans that are referenced in your response letter?
Once we receive approval through the township, we will be resubmitting. We've submitted the HOP throughout the whole process. We've submitted the HOP application to PennDOT and actually had received an approval from PennDOT at one time. But since the plan had changed and also the permit itself had expired because PennDOT would not renew it again being over a decade old. Our plan is once we feel comfortable that this is the plan that we're going with, we will be resubmitting to PennDOT. And we have been in contact with PennDOT within the last 12 months, and they have laid forth information that they wanted to see in addition to what they approved before, which is they saw an access out onto on East Phillip Drive. They wanted a little bit more information on that access out onto Whitehorse. They wanted to see an alternative analysis, which the township, your traffic consultant has asked, what if there was a restriction on that left turn during the peak hours out onto Route 23? We have provided an alternative analysis in the study showing it with and without a restriction. And then if the vehicles can't turn left out of the site, they would use East Phillip Drive to turn out onto on South Whitehorse Road and then turn right to go toward the signal at 23. So there are a number of items that PennDOT has laid forth for us and we did include that in this traffic study and the correspondence section.
I'll double check, but the correspondence may be missing. from Appendix A. I'll double check. Okay. Okay. One of your responses, well, we had made reference to East Phillip Drive being classified as a secondary feeder with connection to this development, and the response is we disagree. Can you expand on that statement?
I disagree based on the volume of the road. The road has less than 200 vehicles a day. White Horse Road itself is also is a secondary feeder road. White Horse Road itself is considered to be a secondary feeder, and it has over, I think it's 5,400 trips. So, you know, what you want to call it, I mean, John used it before, is you want to call it a private road, you want to call it a gray goose. It's a residential road. It's a residential road today. It will remain a residential road. So therefore, I don't believe it, you know, based on the definition of the secondary feeder, it doesn't meet that standard.
The definition of a secondary feeder, according to the ordinance, is a street which connects a residential street to a collector street. So it would seem to me that it's connecting a residential development to White Horse Road, which I would define as at least a collector street. Lastly, there was an analysis that was asked for in the traffic study to show what the levels of service would be at the site driveway to Valley Forge Road if there was no connection to East Phillip. And it seems that in your response letter that you just said no. Can you expand?
Reason why is, but that's not proposed. I certainly could go through different scenarios and provide them to you, but that's not what's on the plan. So we felt it was not relevant.
As an alternative study. I mean, on your plan, you didn't have a left turn restriction either, but you did that as an alternative analysis.
That's because PennDOT asked for it.
Well, okay. And that's all my questions.
I have a question on the entrance. I don't know how far it is, a short distance off of 23 on Sedgley. You show a potential 20-foot wide access easement. I'm guessing that's to go to one of the neighboring houses.
Yeah, PennDOT last time asked if we would provide that in case the neighbor wanted to connect to our new road rather than come out at a driveway very close to our road there.
And
So we said we would provide an easement across our property, actually for anybody that wanted to come over and connect Sedgley Road.
So Sedgley would have an intersection at that point for that neighborhood to come through from Wells onto Sedgley?
No, just talking about a driveway.
So would that driveway be crossing through what we've been calling no man's land?
It would be up to whoever wants to connect to our property to get permission. We don't own that. We don't even know, like it's been said before, like Mr. Brennan had said it previously, who controls that? Nobody can find out. So I can't give permission for somebody to come across that. All I can do is on my property, provide the ability for someone to come across if they wanted to.
Is there any grading concerns to make that intersection work?
No, it's just a driveway coming on to Sedgley Farm, to Sedgley Road.
Just to expound on that a second, that landowner apparently has a driveway that comes out through what is the Belmont Terrace right of way. I don't know what you call it. And PennDOT is concerned that he would have a driveway that close to a road intersection and asked that if we could we create an easement so he could take his driveway over to our road instead of having a driveway almost right on top of a road intersection. So that's all that relates to. It's up to whether they can, I mean, right now he's coming out through Belmont Terrace, so
He's got
maybe he thinks
something-
he's got a right to or what, but.
Or would it be like a
all-
legal non-conforming that he has now, and you're saying you can come through here if you can? If you can't, how does that work?
PennDOT asked us
Right.
to create the capability of coming to us if he can and wants to. PennDOT can't make him do that. PennDOT felt that it would be smart for him to do that and asked us if we could create the capability for it, and we have.
Is that because your deceleration lane would go right across his driveway entrance? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I mean, when we talk about deceleration lanes, when you're talking about the 51 lot plan, I'm not sure whether there's that requirement like there would have been in the PRD plan. So I'm not sure the difference in those. But yes, a car decelerating to come in to ours would be crossing his driveway immediately before coming into ours.
So, and I understand there's a lot of things that would have to happen, right? The owner, that property owner would have to do some sort of quiet title action to allow them to put a road across the Belmont Terrace.
A driveway
No
across.
man's land,
Yeah.
a driveway. But if that was accomplished, Mr. Polig had previously said that one of the reasons why the width of Sedgley Lane is, it's okay that it's only 24 feet versus something like 29 feet, is because there's no driveways off of that road. Does that change your calculus of the acceptability of that road?
Not that
width?
one driveway, no.
I would say not. I'm building a community right now that has similar size lots, both sides of the street, and it's a 24-foot road down in Radnor Township right now. So 24-foot wide road in a large lot area generally works.
What's the name of that development?
Ivy Lane, it's on, I'm talking to the microphone.
It's a long meeting. It's okay.
It's on our Drossen farm down in Radnor, and that phase is called Ivy Lane.
I'm just curious, if that driveway were to exist, how would they cross the traffic on Sedgley? Would there be a stop sign there? I mean, would they just,
It's just a driveway.
but
not
it's a
road.
driveway going on to, it's just, is that divided? It's not divided.
Sedgley Lane's not a Sedgley Lane's not a divided road. You don't have a curb or anything in the
Okay,
middle.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, does the board have any more questions at this time? Bob, you look like you're thinking. Okay.
Sure, I'll think of one as soon as we say that.
I'm gonna pass it on.
And John, I know you maybe weren't in for a lot of background. If you need me to meet you somewhere and go over some history, I'd be happy to do that, so.
I've gotten brain dumped pretty hard. from
Okay, well, if you need,
everyone in the
if you need,
township.
if you need something, let me know.
Appreciate it.
He's gonna use his Jedi mind tricks on you, John, be careful. I do have a question. The proposed private road off of East Phillip is on a lot that you've purchased. And I believe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe your justification for the permissibility of an access through that cul-de-sac has been that there was a paper street easement noted for some time after the development of that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, on the development plans for East Phillip, you can see it says future road, and it's on two properties there at the end of the cul-de-sac, mostly on the property number 876 that Select Sites owns, and I own for that. Instead of bothering the other person with a little bit, we just got to put an easement large enough for the connection on the property we own so that we don't have to disturb that. We do believe underlying, there's the ability that 50-foot wide future road access, we believe the Reeves have a right to that.
So, if the board had concerns about setting a precedent of developers purchasing lots at the end of, in developments and using them as cut-throughs to expand developments, you would still be able to accomplish your development design if you kept that private road where the paper road access is. I'm sorry, that's a very convoluted question, but do you understand my question?
A typical cul-de-sac wouldn't have in the deeds future road, because you can tell, I mean, good planning was, going back a long time, you interconnect neighborhoods. So the idea that this was a farm here and East Phillip, it's over 1,200 feet long, it was not a, less than 500-foot cul-de-sac. It was a long cul-de-sac with a future road access on the plan and in the deeds. So that, in my mind, was always a connection through to this farm. And that's different, I think, than...
I understand that. I think my question is, your current proposal before the board is not to put the road where that, what you've done is you've purchased a new property and you're putting a new access through. Do you see my distinction?
I understand your
the
question exactly. And 70% of the prior, or the long existing easement was on the site we purchased. Only 30% of it was on the other property. From a neighborly standpoint, we felt that instead of trying to run through that right of way on her property and create that conflict, that if we moved it just enough to have it be using the other side plus a little bit of select site. Most of what's in that easement in select sites is part of the original easement. So, but the answer to your simple question is, could we build it in those 50 feet? Yes, we're building it in 50 feet. That's easy, actually easier, because it's a straight 50 feet instead of a diagonal 50 feet coming into the cul-de-sac. That's the only reason we did it that way, was not because we didn't feel we had the right. It was because we felt that we would be more neighborly doing it this way.
Let's go right on to public comment. If you want to line up behind the microphone, we'll get 3 minutes, and please keep it to comments, not questions. If you could, I mean, if there's some simple questions that could be answered, I guess if the developer's willing to answer them, then you're welcome to answer them. So,
we'll see by question.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hi, John Rosenfeld. I live on East Phillip. So obviously there's a large portion of me that wants to talk about why I think it makes no sense to come through the cul-de-sac, and I'll get to that, as will some others here. But I do have a question. I know it's not supposed to be a question, but I just want to make sure that this, you didn't use the word variance, but whatever the thing is you're asking for about the gates that you had proposed, does the wording of that say that these gates will be permanently taken care of by the homeowners association? Because I foresee a mechanical breakdown in the gate, or people being tired of it and either disassembling it or leaving it open. So if that was to be approved, there would need to be something in there saying that it would always need to be maintained. And if for some reason, for some period of days it was broken, it would need to maintain closure during break, not open. So I think it's important, if you're going to grant this that he's asking for, I didn't see all the wording obviously, but it's important that that include the fact that, you know, it can't just work for 2 years and then be left in disrepair.
I would note that Mr. Snyder over there is nodding his head in agreement, and it sounds like it would be handled by the HOA.
And that they couldn't change it later.
And it would be handled, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take the mic for the sake of the
Thank you.
And it would be handled by the fact that the approval of the board would have that as a condition, not just our documentation, but the zoning approval would have, the subdivision approval would have that and be enforceable by the township.
Well, that's what I was going to add. In the case of a total catastrophe, if the HOA were to go out of business, the township would have the right, but not the duty, to enforce it and then charge whatever fees and costs were generated as a result to the HOA. So it's a backup. The township hates to get involved in this stuff, but we normally have the right, but not the duty to enforce.
Well, thank you for clarifying. At least we don't have to argue about that point. Now, having said that, I certainly think that your concept of putting the gate is better than leaving the road open. Okay, we all agree with that. I think there's no one in the room who would disagree with that. However, moving on, it does not, if you look at that development and the little road you have going up on the top of the paper to East Phillip, the development works completely fine without that. It's completely functional. There's not a single person who's ever going to buy a new or a resold house in there who's not going to buy it because that connector is not there. I think everybody here agrees that they're going to accept this development with whatever minor modifications remain after all these years. I don't see why you don't just say, okay, but we're not doing anything with East Phillip. We're just having it the other way. There's no legal reason you need a second thing. It's not going to help sell houses in any possible way. These are going to be beautiful homes with water views. People are going to buy them no matter what. There's zero reason to do that, but you're ruining an existing neighborhood that's been there for, decades and decades, and people purposely chose that house on that street because it's a cul-de-sac. And now, gated, better than not gated, but you're still talking hundreds of extra cars over a 24-hour period, right? 50 homes, 2 cars each way, both days. Granted, some will go out the other way, but you're still talking 100+ cars. You're talking a line of traffic trying to get out of your driveway that was never there before, and you didn't sign up for that. So my request to the board would be, feel free to approve with whatever modifications you need the whole plan, but I would completely eliminate that, and you'd get a perfectly good, fully functional development, no issue with sales, no issue with beauty of the development, etc., and no legal reason to have it. Thank you very much.
Karen Hilliard, 920 Valley Forge Road. So I had just a clarification on the T&M letter. You had stated that the 932 Valley Forge Road, because they would be now taking access from a different way, they would have to change their address to this Eagles Point, I believe. So I was trying to figure out that if that 920 Valley Forge Road, which is the driveway that we were just discussing, if we got approvals and all of that to change the driveway for that, would 920 Valley Forge Road also need to change their address for 911 purposes?
So just so that I'm clear, the address that we were talking about is the Ciroc property that was in the deep back of the property. Yeah. If you would have to go and if you abandoned the existing driveway that you have off of Route 23 and you take it on Segley Lane, yeah, you would have to have that updated as your address.
So where your car pulls into your lot is where you get your address?
Well,
how it works?
Well, I guess if you have, if the one driveway is going to be compromised by the deceleration lane, PennDOT would probably, if you do have the ability to go across the Belmont Terrace and connect, they would probably want the address to be Segley Lane. That again would be the Chester County Emergency Services and the emergency services of the township would have input on that as well.
Okay, and then the other follow-up question is with that Belmont Terrace no man's land. If that 920 Valley Forge Road were to take possession of that in whatever way needed, would that make that lot a double frontage lot? Because we're taking away that Belmont Terrace buffer. I just wanted to ask it now.
The misunderstanding is that for double frontage, even if it was, because I have another argument that none of them could be anyway, because they're already created lots. But our road right of way is inside our property line. So nothing outside of our property would touch our road right of way, whether it's the Belmont Terrace side or whether it's the Dorchester Road side. There would be land between our property line and the road right of way.
And then one more just comment that there's been talk of the culvert under that Sedgley Lane and worrying about the water affecting the two properties on Dorchester. I just want to make sure that no one forgets about the other side of that property because we also have the flooding concerns and the issues. So
Again, we're taking, as I said,
sorry.
Again, we're taking a couple of hours that actually comes off the northwest corner of our property that actually comes across and goes through that culvert. We're going to have a swale prior to it leaving our property and keeping that water and managing it on our site. So we'll actually improve that area.
And just correct yourself, it's a couple of acres, not hours.
Oh, a couple acres. Yeah, it's 9:30. Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ellen Jansen, 15 Galway. I'll address basically water. The impact of this for people and environment is significant and for the present and the future, but I'll just go over my water concerns. First of all, we have the 1 in 100 year events are now at least once a year. So they've increased the water table even where there's water, even where there was never water before, there's standing water. So what's happened to the water table in this proposed development area? Do we know what's happened to it? And what's that doing to the runoff? And for the flooding in adjacent areas, there's remediation that's going to be for what goes into Chapel View. I live in a neighborhood where the adjacent neighborhood runoff has remarkably increased, not only because of these continuous rains we have, but because people have added impermeable surfaces, swimming pools, patios, other things. So, and it's made a whole road in my neighborhood flood all the time. So the water table and the amount of water is of a concern, and I know I'm not alone on that. Another is the herbicides and pesticides, and we were told that natural substances would be used, but what's the definition of natural? Everything can be considered natural. People called Roundup natural. They're still doing that. And why do we have so much cancer in Midwestern farmers? They've determined that Roundup is a big factor in that. So, and people aren't going to adhere to, quote, natural. They'll do whatever they want. That will go into the water, and then we'll be drinking more herbicides and pesticides. And we don't need that. I mean, that's our water supply. It's bad enough as it is. And what are we doing to the future? The incidence of cancer in young people has just skyrocketed, and as well as other things, autism, all sorts of other things. And as far as the homes that are proposed, are they going to have basements or are they going to be on slabs because of the water table? I don't know. I'm just asking that. And the deeds with no structures, in my neighborhood, that's on the deeds, but as soon as the original owners left and a second, third, fourth owner purchased the houses, people have built all sorts of accessory structures, which means more impermeable surfaces. So that's, yes, there will be an HOA, but I've not been impressed with how they can enforce their rules. So those are my main things: water and what's going to happen to the water. Thank you.
Mike Bustia, 845 East Phillip. Again, going back to the cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac's been there since 1965 or so. Yes, there was a paper road. There is PA statute out there for higher class townships that paper roads require, after a period of time, voting by those parcels that abut the paper road. Now, I've been told before that we're not that tier class, right? We're a C class township, but I don't understand why, and I think Danielle, Ms. Julian, you brought this up, we would allow a developer to come in to exploit the fact that there is a paper road there in a C-class community. So I question the validity and the need to open up the cul-de-sac under the premise, under the PA statutes that are out there. So I ask that you guys look into that and help me articulate to my street homeowners that bought into that street, that this road was there for future development at a point in time, but now we're an established community, and there should be rights afforded to those homeowners on that street. Secondarily, again, a very viable project as presented, and if you look at what is needed to break into East Phillip Drive, you already have the emergency road that has now gone around the culvert. So if we're worried about a second access because of emergency needs, we've created one, or there is one created through the open space. So the community as it is, while it's larger than those that we would like to have a single outlet, is a viable community with the emergency road going over the culvert. So those are my points. Echo what John had said, and again, I think there are valid arguments made, but again, I think it's the harmonious nature of the communities, and I think we need to think about both the new community and the old communities as a township. Thank you.
Thank you. I see one more. Hold on.
Hi, I'm John Kiernan, 35 Wesley Lane, and with the I fundamentally think piercing the cul-de-sac, I think it's just wrong. It's wrong to our existing neighbors, and the creativity of a gated system has never been done in this township, from my understanding. Correct? So that's all new, and I don't think there's been enough clarification on. I'm just trying to envision, the gate, who qualifies as being able to use the gated system? Just the property owners, or people that, their landscape crews, delivery people, home care people, the school bus. I mean, who gets the green light on the gate, and who enforces that? Is the gate a code, or is it a card or a scanner?
I believe we could have them answer that question. Actually, that would make it simpler.
But yeah, it seems like if you cave on that, then I don't like what I anticipate will be the the situation there.
I'm gonna ask the applicant to just comment on that one, since it seems simple enough to answer.
Yeah, we agreed, this came up before, and to lessen the potential traffic on East Phillip, we did agree to limit it to homeowners, not deliveries.
Right, and
so
this would be probably a condition of approval that we would put in
Right.
here on our end, and would limit that traffic.
Correct.
We would require that as a condition of approval.
Yeah, and we can do that as a HOA, we can do that.
Okay.
How's that enforced though? If it's a code, how can it?
If you're gonna ask a question, grab the mic, please.
Let me answer his question,
yeah.
because he already asked it once, so let me finish answering the question.
thank
And
you.
that is, I see these all the time in Florida where I live. And the residents are given bumper decals that go on that will trigger the gate so that car can get through. But deliveries, guests, I go visit my cousin, I can't get in the gated side. I have to go through the other side. Yet they can come in because they have the decal on their bumper. The gate system reads it and it goes up for that car, so that the decals would be issued to the cars of residents. That would be it, not to guests, not to delivery people or contractors, just the residents' cars.
Good evening, John Moraz, Meadowbrook Lane off of Pot House. Question for the board here. Will the school buses be permitted to be driving down this main road here? Because that was a question I think initially. Will the roads be able to service a school bus? And what about the emergency vehicles, the fire trucks? It doesn't seem like it's a huge road, 24 feet or whatever, but if you look at the cul-de-sacs will the emergency vehicles be able to get around there and the school buses? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we gave templates to the township, just delivered to the township. So, but they show the fire truck and also the large WB, whatever it is, that can make the turns into the project as well, and the school buses. There's actually a school bus template in there as well.
And I would make a note that if the township did not accept dedication of the roads, the school buses probably wouldn't go down there at all. Just to make a note.
I just have a follow-up question to something that Ms. Hilliard brought up. With the deceleration lane coming from 23 eastbound to make that right-hand turn onto the new Sedgley lane, as discussed, you'll be cutting into the driveway for two residences. And I know this is such an unusual situation with this piece of property that doesn't have a clear owner. But just in thinking of the interests of our two township residents there that, through no fault of their own, will now find their driveways in a deceleration lane, I understand that you're willing to make a concession to provide driveway access onto Sedgley Lane. Is there any additional support? They will have to file, most likely, some kind of either adverse possession. I'm trying to think, kind of quiet title action to gain ownership of that property to gain access to Sedgley Lane. Is there anything that you could do to assist them? Because it's kind of an empty promise to say you can attach to my road when they can't. There's a barrier there. I don't know if you've thought about this, but
No, there's not a decel lane, it's a decel taper. It's about all we can get in. I mean, I'm not trying
that's
to.
like that's like the driveway, it's a goose argument. Come on.
Well,
Don't go there.
But we only have limited frontage, so we can't put in a full deceleration lane. Yeah. So
no, I understand
right.
that. That's
so
not. That's
if
not what
we
I'm
have
asking.
if we adjust their driveways, each one of those property owners, we have to get permission from them. We're not affecting their driveways. Everything's being done within the right of way. So therefore, if we affect their grading of their driveway, meaning if it becomes steeper, right, or we adjust the radii coming out, PennDOT will not give us a permit without getting permission from them. But that is not the case. I understand what you're talking about is, they're very close, but it's not an uncommon problem, issue that comes up with when we have a very limited frontage and we can't get in the full width of the.
So to quickly clarify, is the entire taper within the 75 feet frontage, or does it extend down past?
The taper itself is within the frontage. And if we were putting in anything that affects their driveway, we have to get permission from them. That means our radius cannot go past the property line. If it did, just 1 foot, even if it was in the right of way, we would have to get permission from that property owner. And that's not the case.
But I think the question that she was asking was, if they wanted to get access from Sedgley Lane, it's a difficult process. Would you guys be willing to help them do that?
Well, that's what PennDOT has asked us to do, is they initiated that comment. PennDOT said, we realize that if you have this new driveway, it's wider, it's probably going to be more easier to come out on your driveway. Why don't you grant them an easement to come out onto Sedgley? And that's what Todd has done, is to put that there. If someone wants to tie into it.
Could I make a more direct question to Mr. Poleg, because it'll probably be him answering this. Would you be willing to pay for the quiet title arrangement that would be necessary to cross over that if they were to claim it?
John, what's involved with that? I have no idea.
Thank
Nobody
you.
wants this property. We're not going to fight it.
Understanding that you're currently offering to the edge of it, and the question is, it's hard for the homeowners to pay for that kind of stuff, and so.
Yeah, and I understand, and apparently there's been a adverse possession claim in court that was many years ago that Lord knows what the status of that is. So,
Yeah.
you know, not knowing what it would be, it's hard to say yes.
Would you be able to look into it and determine how
Well,
much
we
that would
can-
take and then figure out whether you'd be willing to commit to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Does that kind of cover? Thank you. Okay, anything else? Going once, going twice? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. We're going to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Did I miss it?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Just remind everybody.
We're still in session. I have to bring on the next agenda item. I'm going to ask if you have any discussion you want to have with anybody in here, please take it outside because we can hear you from the hallway. Thank you.
It's nice out.
It is nice out tonight, so.
Allegedly. I haven't been
so.
out for 14 hours, but.
This next item is a zoning hearing board application for 308 Drummers Lane. We're going to talk about a resident proposing to add a new patio with roof, pavilion, and fireplace where a lot is already over the max allowable lot coverage by 7.85% due to the previous owner installing a large patio area without a permit where 30% is allowed. The new patio area would bring the lot coverage to 40.6%. Stormwater management would be required. I'm going to pass it on to Lori or Bill.
So the zoning hearing board application was included in your board documents. As usual in these scenarios, you have an opportunity to take a position of opposition or to remain neutral on the application. The description is exactly correct. The applicant is looking to expand their patio. They discovered that they were already over their maximum coverage due to work that was done by a prior owner, unpermitted work done by a prior owner. So they are asking for relief in order to do their improvements.
I was unclear on something. Did the work by, let's see, before the previous owner installed the patio, were they over or were they under with without the previous patio? How much patio was there, and did the patio bring it over, or was it already over when they installed the unpermitted patio?
By 7.85%. Right now.
Currently, as I understand it, and I don't want to say anything that's not exactly correct, but
Right.
work was being done, some permanent work was being done.
Sure.
It was installed larger than it was approved for.
Okay, thank you.
So what was approved was not over.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Thanks. That makes sense. Thank you.
So they're asking for relief from doing stormwater management?
No, from the impervious coverage limit. So they want to cover their lot with more than is allowed, and it's already covered with more than is allowed, and they want to expand.
So they're, what
They-
they want to expand to, they're willing to do the stormwater management?
Correct.
They're
Well,
gonna have
they
to,
would be
yeah.
required to.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Does anybody have any strong feelings about it?
We have neighbors that are gonna be
Anybody
impacted by
in,
this?
anybody here to discuss that? Is the applicant here?
Applicants are not here? Or they
No.
were, maybe?
No.
To answer the question about the neighbors, as is the case with all zoning hearing applications, all of the neighbors within a certain radius get notified. So I would not know at this moment until they're notified, and until the hearing really, if there is opposition from the neighbors.
They typically just show up right at the hearing.
So-
That's it in Sunwood?
Paul, I'm just wondering,
Yeah,
so
this is the-
obviously we have impervious coverage limits for a reason. We've heard numerous times from township residents about concerns about stormwater. That seems to be the most, one of the largest concerns we have of our residents is stormwater. Can we have an exceedance of impervious coverage limits and still manage stormwater effectively on this lot? I know that maybe, I don't know if you can answer that question today.
Knowing that stormwater is only getting worse.
Yeah, knowing
as
that,
time
again,
goes
as
on.
we hear over and over and over again, the stormwater management issues do not alleviate over time.
I was not provided the application for 308 Drummers Lane, but just a high-level answer would be, obviously, previous owners went ahead and installed a lot of impervious cover. So the new patio that would be installed, all the additional impervious that they were putting on would require stormwater management to control it. It's noted that it will be required, so they would have to have the volume reductions, the peak rate reductions, et cetera. I don't think that we can go back and chase the new homeowner for the exceedance that the previous owner had done. I just don't think that's necessarily fair.
No, I would agree, and I would just add that these are fairly small lots.
Yeah.
To begin with, so they're all contending with that.
Yeah, I would make a note just as a concern from the zoning end. So when you're setting out zoning maps and putting out these tables for lot coverage and everything, the lot coverage isn't necessarily about the stormwater, it's about the character of the neighborhood. It gives you a maximum coverage for like that lot, so there's green space on the lot, so people are looking at green space and not like structures on their neighbor's lot. And then once you start breaking down the lot coverage barriers, that kind of snowballs throughout the neighborhood. So the question, I think, is less about the stormwater, because they would be required to do stormwater to the satisfaction of the township. It would be more, do we want to open up a can of worms, potentially open up a can of worms with lot coverage issues throughout the entire neighborhood or throughout the district? Because how does the zoning hearing board not grant it anywhere else that wants it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess unless there's, I can understand these people bought this house, it had an exceedance, they didn't know about it, right? That's not their fault. But now to ask for additional, is there any hardship that they are exhibiting versus anybody else? And then is the limit not X, but X times whatever percentage they're.
Almost never a hardship, but it's.
For lot coverage, right?
It's almost never a hardship. I mean, a proven hardship. This has become a game.
Right, and a de minimis variance is like 10% exceedance, so 10%, I mean, if you wanted to call it a de minimis, it would have to be up to 33% of the lot coverage, because 10% of 30 is 3%, so you would exceed by 3%. Sounds like they're already at more than a de minimis exceedance of the ordinance, and I hesitate to allow anything beyond a de minimis variance.
Pointing out that the increase is 3% though, what they're asking for.
The increase is another 3% over top of the.
Yeah. I'm just saying in case of what they want to add on.
Yeah, it's about another 3% or something like that.
So, but our decision is not whether or not we approve it. That's not our decision to make. The zoning hearing board makes that decision. It's just whether or not we feel so strongly in opposition to this that we want to send Bill to represent us in front of the zoning hearing board.
That's correct.
Okay.
So right now they're at 37.85%. And we're looking to go up to 40.6.
Correct. Well, I mean, before we finalize that, I'd like to know that the next item on the agenda is basically the exact same thing, with a little bit, with a lot more of an increase in impervious coverage. It's in the same neighborhood. If there's anybody here for that application, I'd probably ask them to come up now instead of waiting till after we make a decision on the other one, because I'd rather decide them both at the same time, if everybody's all right with that, so that we're consistent between the two. And we're giving them a fair shot to ask about it. Is the applicant for the other? It's 209 Drummers. The applicant is not here. Okay, so I would consider them both together if that's all right with you guys.
I think we need to decide on each one, but I agree
yeah,
that
I mean,
I agree that the board should be
tactic.
consistent in their approach towards.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
Understood. Thanks.
There is a very significant difference in the amount that they're asking though between the two. One's a 3% increase, the other's 12. That's very large.
But it's a 3% increase on a lot that already has exceeded.
Oh, yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that.
And they're
but if you
asking for
come
the
in-
same resulting percentage, essentially 40 and 42%. It's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
the same.
I recommend that Bill go to both.
Do you want to do that in the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
In a motion form?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we have Bill go to the zoning hearing board to oppose both of these.
I'll second that. Further discussion from the board. John looks like he's thinking.
The only comment I want to make is that I'm really glad that because they go over it, that the stormwater management will be required if that's not an option. I like that it's a requirement.
I would just say I'm sympathetic to the homeowners too, but if we have standards and we're allowing everybody to exceed them, then they don't exist, the standards don't exist.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
typically, if there's a lot of people in a district with the same problem, the more appropriate path would be to ask for ordinance amendments or maybe a zoning map change, and they would go through the process. So if we do, if the neighborhood is having that issue and you want to approach the board, that's typically how that goes. Any further discussion from the board? Any public comments?
I'm Frank Mercurio, 805 Spruce Grove. We are neighbors of the second applicant. I guess my only comment is I want to echo something I think what Mr. Donovan said. We have ordinances for a reason. And my impression now, I've been coming to these meetings for maybe 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and there have been some fairly controversial things being discussed. My impression is that we tend to be a little too quick to grant variances.
Too quick to do what, I'm sorry?
To grant variances to ordinances. And it makes me wonder why we have ordinances if we, in my opinion, are so quick to say, no, that's okay. And I'm thinking, interestingly enough, of this same application the last time, I think Mr. Brennan testified that, I think it was the county or the state.
The regulations said it was an egregious problem
Yes.
to do this, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I would note this is not your neighbor. This is 209 drummers and 308 drummers. But it's not your neighbor. So we haven't touched on 123 Whitehorse yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
But
thought this was
not
the
your
second
neighbor.
one.
But the comments can stand or not stand. It doesn't really matter.
I'll just.
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. No, I'll just shut up. My only point was that.
Later you can just do a ditto. I mean, that's fine.
I just think that we tend to lean a little bit too much for the applicant and a little bit too little for the purpose of the original ordinance. You know, whether it's stormwater management or, I love your point about the greenery. Sometimes it's not stormwater, it's what you see. So I would just make a comment that I'd like to see a little bit tighter adherence to ordinance.
I urge you to go before the zoning hearing board and tell them that.
Thank you, but you know, I'd like everyone to hear it, but I'll do it with the zoning board too. But anyhow, that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? All in favor?
We have a comment. Jansen, as an addendum, it seems, I agree with what he's saying, that these variances, the ordinances, and we're giving, I feel like people come to this township, businesses come to this township and try to run us over, and it's not good. I just see what happens, and then they get away with it. They do things and then they ask for forgiveness, or they hope no one finds out. There's a business right down on the river that's done exactly that when they got approved years ago said, oh, it's just gonna be a few trucks. Now you go there and it's on both sides of Pauling Road, and it's a ton of trucks, tons of vehicles. And on the other side where they said it was going to be repo, it's the same.
I'm going to kind of direct you to bring it back to the motion itself
So,
a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's, I feel as a resident of this township for 35 years that it's really, it makes me sad to see what's happening.
All right, thanks. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Is that for bill 485?
I would note that that was for both items 3 and 4 from the agenda. First,
Yes, yes, I'm sorry.
because
I
the way
probably
Martha
should've
read
worded
it.
the
So
motion
it's okay.
better.
It's for 308 Drummers Lane and 209 Drummers Lane.
Yeah, I got
And the staff got it. Thank you. Now we're on to the zoning hearing board application for 123 South Whitehorse Road, where the applicant was granted zoning hearing board relief previously from zoning ordinance section 370-73A4 for the construction of the pool and pool decking within 50 feet within the 50-foot boundary of the flood hazard district. The applicant now needs relief from maximum lot coverage and to construct the stormwater basin within the flood hazard district boundaries. In addition, the applicant is seeking the following waivers: Stormwater Management Ordinance Section 310-15T. The proposed stormwater basin encroaches within 50 feet of the top of the pond embankment, and Stormwater Management Ordinance Section 310-25C13 to permit the stormwater basin in the required setbacks. Let's see.
Paul.
I will direct it over to Paul for just a quick note here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, the applicant went in front of the zoning hearing board and got the relief to install the pool itself within the flood hazard buffer. So from the pond's edge, there's 50 feet, which is the flood hazard district. And then at that edge, there's another 50 feet that goes to the buffer. So the pool is now, when I looked at the original plan, there was a little bit of pool in the flood hazard district, but then they revised the plans and they pushed it all within the buffer. Since that time, they've also prepared more detailed engineering plans. The two variances that they're looking for is that the lot itself is encumbered by the flood hazard district on 2 of the sides of the lot. Withdrawing that area of the flood hazard district as developable area pushes the maximum amount of lot cover. You know, you're taking that area, you're making it smaller, and you have the house, and you have the proposed pool and associated pervious. So they're looking for relief with that. Additionally, they're looking for the relief about the distance from where the stormwater management basin is being located. The lot drains from South Whitehorse down towards the pond. The pool is located to the side of the property because of the way it's configured. The stormwater management is proposed and located on the downstream side of the pool where it collects. The applicant has prepared multiple planned revisions. The stormwater management, there's no more technical comments on any of that. The basin functions for the new proposed impervious, both on peak rate control and volume rate control. In addition to those 2 variance requests from the applicant from the zoning, there's 2 waiver requests from the stormwater management. Now, one is almost part and parcel with the zoning, in which the stormwater basin would be within 50 feet of the pond. So the one variance that's requested from the zoning is very similar to the one that would be in the stormwater management, that the basin is basically within the flood hazard district. It's about 25 feet from the pond edge up to the stormwater management. And secondly, again, it's about where the basin is being proposed and the setbacks. Again, there's not a lot. The lot kind of truncates down. The setbacks from the side yard, minimum 50 feet from any structure. The basin's within that. 50 feet from any property boundary of right of way. It's close to the property side yard line, and then a minimum of 50 feet from any existing wetlands streams and ponds, so it's within that. So I just wanted to give you a history of this project. The applicant does have a review letter from us dated April 5th where the 2 variances are listed, the 2 waivers are listed, and then there's one more detailed comment about a self-controlling latch for the pool, which I'm sure that will comply.
Sorry, I would ask if the applicant's here and they want to say anything, please step up to the mic, name, address. Thanks.
It's sort of a two-step process. This board is involved in connection with the waiver applications, and the zoning hearing board, again, will be hearing the variance applications. It's unusual because it's repetitive, and, you know, they're gonna say, you know, why are you here again? And they have a leg up because they won the first time. The problem is, an issue is, if you grant the waivers before the zoning hearing, and if you decide to send me, and I don't know what you're gonna do, that would be sort of be a signal to the zoning hearing board that, you know, the supervisors have granted the variance, I'm sorry, the waivers, therefore the variance would be less of a problem. I'm not saying it should be a problem or not, I'm just calling to your attention the fact that maybe we should wait to see what the zoning hearing board does, whether I go or not, before waivers are issued.
My plan was to offer to table those waivers till next month or until after the zoning hearing. So we're on the same page.
So we're saying the same thing,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah. So I mean, I would make a motion to table the waivers until after the zoning hearing, so we can talk about that later.
Clarify, we're here tonight under the township's recommendation in a meeting with Kim and Paul that we attended this meeting prior to the zoning hearing board meeting. Just would have been nice to know that, so I didn't sit here all night and came to the next month's meeting.
Understood. And I have a motion out, second.
I'll second.
What's that? But this is for just for the waiver.
Yeah, we still have to make a decision on
This is just for the
what to
waiver
do about
requests,
the
and
zoning.
I'm only asking to table them. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about the other half in a minute. And are you looking for public comment? Not yet. Well, I'll bring you up. Don't worry. But motion on the table to table the waivers till.
Wanting to comment on the waivers? On the waiver table.
Is it a comment on the waivers? Or is it a comment on the zoning hearing board relief itself?
It would have to really specifically be whether you have comment on our motion to not talk about the waivers tonight. Like, what we're proposing right now is we table the waivers. So do
And
you
you'll
have
come up
comment
again
on
later.
that? But you'll have opportunity to comment on other things.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. So we'll bring you up. We'll bring you up. Don't worry. So we're talking specifically about the waivers and tabling them for, well, until after the zoning hearing. We've heard the comment, and so you won't have to repeat that as much next time. You can bring us up to speed if needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, we will talk about whether or not to do anything about the requested zoning hearing board or zoning relief. So we will either act or not act on that tonight. Let's see. I'm gonna make a motion and then in a second, then we can have discussion. Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to send Bill to oppose the requested zoning relief for 123 South Whitehorse Road. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Now further discussion from the board.
So we opposed the zoning relief last time. The zoning hearing board obviously did not, agree. But I see nothing, there's nothing, this is consistent with what was the relief that was requested last time that we opposed, and I'm not sure why we would not be consistent in our approach to it.
I would agree with that sentiment. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Just a quick question. It mentions the relief from the maximum lot coverage. What are do we have the hard numbers on that in terms of what it would actually be? The other two did.
It's probably deep in a zoning table, so.
Yeah, it's just existing lot, impervious coverage, existing total. So, Matt, so
If
it
you-
looks like
Do you have
it looks like the
Microphone.
existing total,
Sorry, pardon me. The existing impervious cover on the lot is 22.6%. The new impervious is 5.5%, so it's going up to 28.0%. And the allowable lot cover. Am I on an older plan?
If you got
Yeah,
it.
do you have it
Go
handy?
ahead.
I don't have it.
So the developable area on the lot, without taking out the floodplain area, totals 28,502. We would be subtracting out of that 6796, so now the developable lot area is 2176. That differential puts us into an overage on the impervious coverage. We would total have 36.8%, where I believe 30% is required. That's right.
The max lot coverage is 30%. That's, yeah.
6.8%. All right.
Great, thank you.
Further board discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to invite public comment. Now it is time for public comment. Thank you.
That's you, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just wanted to echo concern we had about the number of variances. We were at the other meeting and discussed the concerns about the compromise to the pond. There are 4 homes around the pond, one of which is a home that's proposing the pool. There's a tremendous amount of biodiversity in the pond, and concern that with the flood, further moving into the floodplain is a potential compromise to the life in the pond. So I want to make you aware of that. We discussed this. It was I'll call it a split decision at the zoning board hearing. But I wanted you to be aware of the concerns we've had. And it just concerns me that we would go further with additional variance than what's already been granted.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none. Oh,
Just one comment in response to that. Don't know if the board attended or heard about the prior variance meeting, but we did agree to address concerns that some of the residents had as to chemicals and things of that nature into the pond. We decided to propose a cartridge filter in the filtration system of the pool so that there would be no backwashing, is what is commonly known as DE material going into the pond, which would be found on a typical DE filter. So we did make that accommodation for that reason.
okay, thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none now. Okay. All in favor of sending Bill?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, we are on to old business, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just gonna skip everything. No, we have another page and a half, so we're gonna keep moving. This is a discussion and selection of a date for swearing-in ceremony for Chief Fitzsimmons.
Woohoo. Check your calendars. Wednesday, May 1st or Thursday, May 2nd. Is the board available?
Wednesday, May 1st?
Yes.
Or Thursday, May 2nd.
I have a better shot of neither.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A while in the first part of it.
This would be in the evening or what?
Evening,
Time of day?
yes.
Okay.
6 o'clock?
Oh, I'm either.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock? Yeah, you don't care. Yeah.
It better be.
Either day is fine with me.
I'm neither, but
You're good. Martha's good.
I'm good. Thursday preferred, but
Thursday's preferred?
I think either can work.
Especially Thursday.
Well, no, I just think
For John.
sorry?
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it.
No, I'm trying to figure out if my kids have them, but.
Okay.
Of course, I'll say one day and then. I think either day.
Okay.
Thursday, May 2nd it is.
That was surprisingly easy, thank you.
And that will be, I'll work with Chief Fitzsimmons on the arrangements. It'll be in the evening. We'll have the judge here to do the swearing in. The
you say
public will be
6
invited.
p.m.?
Yes.
6 p.m. Here,
Yes.
yep.
You can carpool if you want.
All right.
That covers that item?
That
Great.
covers that. Thank you.
On to new business. Item 1 is overview and discussion on 2024 road department paving curbing projects. That's Lori.
Okay, you will notice that the next several items on the agenda are all requests for authorization to advertise the various bids that we are preparing to put out. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of what those bids are before we get to the individual items. We are bidding everything differently this year. We've gotten feedback from PennDOT over the years that they didn't really love, we weren't doing anything incorrectly. It's fine. They didn't like the way we were bidding our projects. Specifically that we were just bidding an equipment rental and not, they prefer for paving projects that you bid what they call in place, so project specific. So that's what we're doing. It's a lot more work for us. It's a pain in the butt, truthfully, but we're gonna do it, and that's why you have 8 items on here to authorize advertisements. So the 2024 paving plan that we are requesting authorization to advertise, and we're including everything we might want to do. We're going to have to cut back due to cost. But the roads that we are tentatively planning are Drummers Lane, Rossiter Ave, Biddle Lane, Adamson Court. Again,
Adamson Court?
yeah.
I've never even heard of that road. Isn't that terrible?
I'll look it up for you.
Somewhere on street sign, I don't know where it is.
Oh, it's in Warhol?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here it is.
I walked that
It's
one.
right off of Biddle.
Okay.
I walked that one when I was thinking.
Adam, ADAMSON. Yep. We won't be able to do all of it, likely, unless we get a
Right.
really great price, but with the cost of asphalt, I doubt it.
How many, is this 2 miles? Oh, I'm sorry. Is this 2 miles? Or is it more than 2 miles?
I have the quantities of asphalt, I don't have the length of road. Yeah.
Isn't our annual target 2 miles? So it's got, I'm assuming it's roughly 2 miles.
Roughly, yeah, but how far we can go will depend on the cost. Yeah.
Okay.
So that
Easy enough.
that is the plan. We are also going to be doing paving on Dawson Drive. That's not included in this because we're splitting that with the borough. So that will come later. Oil and chip, bituminous seal coat is what it's named on the agenda. We'll be requesting authorization to advertise that bid, and that is for Ashenfelter, Diamond Rock, Tinker Hill. Again, whether or not we can do all of them will depend on the cost, but those are our plan. Curbing for 2024, we are intending to do curbing along Spring Lane. So for paving projects, Moore Hall and the Meadows are the priority developments. They're up next on the list.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Great.
For the overview.
Okay, well, then.
Can we approve them all at once?
No.
No, we gotta do them all separately. I'll start us down the. I will start us right down the list. I'll make a motion to authorize advertisement to bid the 2024-25 paving by project contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to authorize advertisement to bid the 2024-25 bituminous seal contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I make a motion to authorize advertisement to bid the 2024-25 equipment rental contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to authorize advertisement to bid the 2024-25 snow contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It was implicit in each one of those that the opportunity for public comment was available.
Oh, it has been available, and I see them chomping at the bit back there.
I just don't want people to suggest that we did not provide due process for comments on
That's correct.
these contracts.
I'll make a motion to authorize, we're on item number 6. I'll make a motion to authorize advertisement ordinance 2024-02, amending chapter 280 of the Code of Schuylkill Township to be voted on at the May 8th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting, and this is a separate item that Lori will comment on.
Is there a second?
Do I hear a second? Well, I need a second so we can have discussion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay.
I just want to, some of you know me, some of you do not. Is this even on?
Yep. It's more for the recording than us.
I'm newly elected to Schuylkill.
The rules for bidding are established by state law, so we have to follow that in accordance with second-class township code. So we bid it in a newspaper of general circulation as is required, and we get either 0 or we get one, two,
maybe.
It depends, yeah.
So we as a township don't do any of this, like say paving or oil and chipping ourselves, we bid it all out.
We have a road crew of 3 plus a roadmaster, so no, we can't do it ourselves, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. All right, I'm gonna let Lori talk about amending chapter 280 of the code.
Sewer authority, this is the sewer authority.
Yeah, this is the sewer authority. Yes. This came to us from the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. There are some changes that are coming down from the US EPA. Some of the limits have changed in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 of this section of our ordinance. So we are just repealing and replacing with the updated numbers as directed by the EPA.
They're just tightening slightly the restrictions on some of the harmful things that can be put in. They're tightening the restrictions on some of the harmful things that can be put into the sewer system. And they're saying that waste permits can only be issued for not more than 5 years. So it's pretty basic. We're just following, it looks complicated, but we're just following their specific directions.
Okay, great. Are there any questions on that? Comments, concerns?
And this is something that we have to have in our ordinance.
Or they won't take our sewage.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
I support
It is quite important.
Big return.
All right, the motion's been made, the second's been made. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to authorize advertisement of EAC meeting date change from April 23rd to April 30th, 2024. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And this is for moving for primary day, primary election day.
So I'm sorry, what was
The EAC's meeting.
Oh,
was-
EAC meeting, okay, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a quick comment on that. I won't be able to attend.
Okay,
that meeting,
if
yeah.
we need to, if somebody else needs to attend, or if,
You will or won't?
Will not. I'll be in
Okay.
Kentucky
Okay.
or West Virginia.
great, thanks. I'll make a motion to appoint John.
Oh, no, I won't be in Texas April 30th, we're moving it to April 30th?
Yes.
I'll take it. You already, yeah, but you already set the meeting for me.
I might.
Anyway, so.
I'm coming back that
I'll
evening.
go twice.
So
There you go. All right.
I top your generosity. Double now.
Well, somebody will be there, and that's what matters.
This is what happens when our meetings go too late.
I haven't eaten, passing the coffee.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to appoint John Lentz to the UCC Appeals Board effective April 10th, 2024 as a full member until such time as amended by the Board of Supervisors. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
I don't see any reason to oppose. Does anybody here? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank him for his
Thank you very much.
willingness to
Yes,
volunteer.
we need that, and we appreciate it very much. I'll make a, well, let's see. Now we're gonna, oh shoot, this one. You stuck a bum at the end of it. Oh my God, Lori. So we're gonna review the 2024 PSAT's proposed bylaws changes, nominations report, and resolutions.
Wait a minute. Before we do that, I mean, have
Did
you guys
anybody
read
have-
them?
Did anyone have any issues?
Has
That's
anyone
all I need to know.
read them?
But didn't you say that you wanted to discuss some
Valentina
more
read them.
controversial ones?
We
If
will.
there,
I was
if
go-
any exist.
I was going to say if the staff has any in particular that they would like us to discuss, please bring those to the floor because I didn't see a lot of things that were too contentious. So,
No, we have nothing.
Right. And I really like that they're relaxing or helping you guys with some of the right to know stuff.
if they,
Well,
they're gonna lobby for it anyway.
They're gonna,
They're
right.
gonna, yeah, that's what I mean.
They're gonna lobby for it.
That's the only one that I looked and I thought really mattered to us, but that's
Okay.
just me.
So unless anybody has super.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's why we're doing this.
So there are a handful of ones in there that were around, they're more environmental, such as you cut down 10 trees, you plant 5. The opposition to all of those was citing acre. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand.
It was what?
Citing acre, which I'd have to look up the definition again. It's basically the state says that the local townships cannot place hardship on farming communities. State law takes precedence. We're not allowed to regulate farming communities in any way. I don't know if, Bill, you have any familiarity with this in terms of whether or not that kind of thing applies.
Is this like farming protection to make sure that existing farmers cannot get their farms destroyed if a subdivision comes up next door? Is that, I'm sort of familiar with that, but I'm not familiar
No,
with.
it's the idea behind it, from what I can gather, my minimal layman research, is that the state of Pennsylvania wants to protect their farmers, and they want to protect them in such a way that they don't want local townships to impose undue hardship on them.
Undue hardship on farmers. Well, we don't
yeah.
have a problem here, but,
That's a common thing across the state. The farming community gets a lot of protections against, well, a lot of things that townships do on ask other property owners to do. So like, for example, if they wanted to build an agricultural building, they don't have to get building permits for that. They just have to get a zoning permits. And in some places, they're exempted from even those. In this case, I'd have to pull up. Do you know which resolution number it was?
There's one, 2408 as an example.
2408.
All the Chesapeake Bay protections, for example, I think farms are exempt from.
Oh, the stormwater. This is like the one with the meeting stormwater management requirements.
I closed my tab that had them all up. Fantastic.
Right.
Really, my question boils down to the language I'm seeing cited a lot for acre is includes any ordinances that prohibits or limits a normal agricultural operation. And some of these things seem very baseline, like plant 5 trees, have to cut 10 down. Like that doesn't seem like it would inhibit anyone at all. But across the board, PSAS has come back and say, no, we oppose this because it's an acre violation. And obviously being an environmentally minded person, I don't want to just bend over backwards because, oh, we don't want to touch farming at all. We just don't want to do anything about it. I don't know if anyone else has any opinions or thoughts on that or experience.
That is a good point. And the reason that PSATS itself opposes is because they are made up mainly of these rural communities. And so that, to your point, that they may not represent all of our interests in all cases. But if you have, if you want to pull those out, and if there's any in particular where you want to just note, do you have any?
I guess I closed my tabs. I had them open.
No worries.
Do you want-
I had
it open.
Can you mark up my hard copy? Open?
Yeah, if you want to mark up this hard copy, that would help. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you want, if there's no other discussion, if you want him to do that, we could move on and then come back.
That's what I was planning.
Okay.
That's a fair point, but it's.
But I mean, I see your point too.
So, unless there's other specific concerns, I'm gonna go to the next item on the agenda while John marks up that, so we can go back and discuss those things, if that's all right. I'll make a motion to approve payment to the Valley Forge Volunteer Fire Company in the amount of $70,000 for capital water project. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
This is, which one of these is this? This
For the
sprinklers? Sprinkler system, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Easy enough. I was gonna make them talk.
We've heard about the sprinkler system about half a dozen times, so yeah, so don't worry about it. That is a good project, and we're happy it's moving forward. Thank you.
2410 and 2408.
Oh, wait, no, 10. Yeah.
I thought there was briefly to executive session.
What's that?
Briefly back to exec.
Yeah, I have that on here.
So PSATS.
And again, this is,
So
this,
how many township, like any member can make.
Usually it's the county members and the county consortiums. They get together, they come up with ideas. Like we have CATO here, it's CCATO, Chester County Association of Township Officials, and they come up with their requests. They lobby the PSATs, and then PSATs lobbies on everybody's behalf to the legislators.
Do we have representatives for the Chester? You're the representative for the Chester
Not, I mean, not
They didn't
us
meet this year.
specifically.
They didn't
Cato.
Oh, Cato, that's a different, that's
But,
just,
but that's how a lot of those get on this
these
stuff.
resolutions
And then-
are just that. This is just simply to establish PSATs as an organization, their legislative agenda.
Right.
And what they're going to advocate
No,
for
I
or against.
understand
And
that. What I'm saying is, how does one make, so, for example, this resolution that we have to chip our cats and dogs.
yeah,
Some entity
There's a board.
proposed that.
There's a
Obviously, PSAT's leadership is recommending that we oppose
Yeah, and
this resolution, but somebody proposed this
does it happen to know who it was?
PSATs has a resolution committee, yeah, it
Which-
says.
which
what
one was that?
township
Which-
it came
what
out
number
of.
was that?
It's this is an example, 2438.
Yeah,
What's
that's
the,
like-
and it just lists Chester County. So
That's
I'm
because it
assuming
came out of
there's a
Chester County.
township in Chester County that has made this
Yeah.
proposal?
Yeah, basically,
wasn't us.
it's coming out. It's coming
No,
out.
I know it wasn't, I
It's-
want to understand what the process is.
Yeah, it's coming out of Chester County,
Okay.
basically. And some of these come from there's like an executive board put together in PSATs that actually comes up with some to recommend by PSATs. They recommend their own. And then counties or municipal members or what have you, they'll put together their wish list of things and it gets put on the list. And then we talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to understand, can any one member township make a recommendation that PSATs must bring up at its annual meeting, or does it take some sort of a?
Goes to a committee.
Yeah, the committee pulls
It's
from
the
a
committee
larger
or
list.
it's the county committee?
No, it's a PSATs committee.
The PSATs committee. The PSATs, the nonprofit PSATs has its own little selection committee that pulls together these.
Yep.
So they're picking this out of a larger hat.
I was gonna say, they
So this
probably,
made it through that initial filter?
This made it through the filter.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes, and it is always a joy to see what they put on this list.
thank you, I just wanted.
Sorry, yeah.
I just wanted to
don't be.
understand the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
You understand it.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
you get it. Yeah. It's it is a question that, well,
You're our voting member, by the way, I would be working in my hotel room.
if we are ever concerned to a high degree about the legislative agenda they are taking, we should, one of us, find a way onto that executive committee that proposes these resolutions. And
No, thank you.
spend our time
I
talking
know,
over that with the
yeah.
folks who already do it.
yeah.
Uh,
This
that's
is
how-
enough ridiculousness now.
So, so
So
if there's a volunteer.
is my direction to,
What were they? I guess the question is, do we want to discuss these really quickly and see what they are? If there's any
The
reason
numbers were what,
to worry
08
about them.
and 10?
See,
No, I have the wrong numbers. What were the numbers?
24-08 and 24-10.
Oh, okay, so we did.
Yeah, for the 2 acre ones, yeah.
They're talking about timber regulations in general. So
Chester County?
yeah, we're usually at the forefront of the resolutions that have to do with environmental concerns. As a county.
I didn't realize there was much commercial logging in Pennsylvania.
That's what I mean. Well,
there-
in Pennsylvania, yeah, but not
There's,
in
yeah,
Chester County.
there's not a lot of timber operations around here, but there's a couple of timber harvesting operations. In
I
like,
don't have strong feelings about any of this.
I don't either.
We have, what do we have?
yeah, no. Anything special in highlights?
Just ones that Valentina noted for me. So would you like me to vote in any way different than what's on the document? On any of the items?
In an ideal world, yes, but the legal concerns notwithstanding, if it actually is a violation of acre, then I don't want to, end up being pursued by the AG.
Well,
because of it,
the
so.
nice thing is we're in a big room full of people, and we just hold up a card, and,
And they walk around with
and
it.
they walk around.
Well, yes.
And then, yeah. So if we want to oppose it, or if we wanna oppose the opposition, that's fully within the realm, and if there's a concern that we should be doing it, which makes sense, it would be nice to have them replaced in trees.
Well, some of these,
So I think-
some of these things are odd, like 2401.
Oh, yeah.
Is it actually a prohibition today? Does section 1538 of the Schuylkill Township Code prohibit us from making a memorial to first responders, including firefighters? That's just, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Yes, you
This has
can.
been
The
a long-
only
this
one
is
that
I
I-
don't need to add more discussion to this.
The only one that I am really strongly in support of, and PSAS already is the changes to the right to know, because I know how much of a pain in the neck that is for you guys. So if you can hold up 2 cards for that one.
Which one is that?
Maybe I can steal one from your side.
2405.
I think that one's been on here every year.
It's yeah, that one's literally been on there every year. There's a couple of them that have been on here every year because they haven't succeeded yet, but they do just keep rolling. They keep trying every year at least. So
Okay, so 2408. Support?
support. I would go with that inclination to support on that. Yeah, John.
I have no feeling either way.
Yeah, I agree for support.
And same for 2410.
Same for 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Was there any other? No, that's it.
Is everyone dying?
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
Good.
Anybody else?
Good. Great.
The direction thinking. Are you the primary or am I the primary?
I am the.
Great. You get to hold up the thing. Okay. So 2-minute reports starting with John.
Yes.
So for EAC last meeting, they're looking to bring on an arborist to help take care of some of the trees. They have some issues right now with some native stuff. There's some accusations that they were not properly cared for, and now we are in technical debt, if you will, for going back and cleaning them up and taking care of them. The quotes look pretty low. It looks like a no-brainer for them, something they can fund on their own. They are... Weren't we supposed to have a... Okay. Jonathan is working to bring a list together to bring to us for basically a wish list for the revamp for the building here in terms of making it more efficient and more green. He should be getting that to you at some point, perhaps. And then working on a plan for handling some of the invasives via red tail in both parks. Get a handle on them, clearing them out, and not just clearing them out, but replacing them. So we actually have something in place to prevent the invasives from coming back and just taking over again. So long-term, year-long plan to try and tackle that.
Upper Marion Township used goats.
I would love that.
Yeah, but they eat everything.
You start with the goats
They
and
were
then you
smart
replant.
goats. I don't know. I just remember that they hired goats, a troop of goats.
They eat everything. They eat native as well.
Well, then you can start with a fresh native planting.
Exactly. Yeah. Clear it out, then replant.
Anything else, John?
There's a big trees campaign going on for anyone who's interested. You got a big trees campaign, social media campaign. You got a big tree on your lot, send in a picture, get, win not a prize, but the glory and adoration of the AC.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay, Danielle.
I was not at the Regional Planning Committee meeting last month. Martha Majeski valiantly stood in my stead,
Great.
represented the township's interests.
Sounds
I
like
will,
Martha has the
I will
update.
yield my
Thank you.
time to Martha.
It's a 2-minute report, Martha. How are you going to fill it?
Okay, I don't know. Let me see here. I did go to the Regional Planning Committee. They really didn't discuss a whole lot. They were talking about some plans that they wanted to do over the next year. So they kind of voted on prioritizing. They changed the priority list a little bit. With the next meeting, which will be on April 24th, will actually will happen in person here. I'm shocked.
Is it here or is it?
Yes, it will be here. And
That's fun.
they're going to be discussing regional trails and connecting municipalities to other neighboring municipalities with their trails. so.
John's the liaison for trails. If you can attend, you might want to attend.
24th.
It's a Wednesday.
That's next week?
It's
Week after?
I think it's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday because I have a zoning hearing that night, so it's a Wednesday.
Yes, it is Wednesday, and it's here, and it's 7:30. Thank you. So, and the historical commission meeting, I think everything was fine. They didn't have a whole lot to discuss on their agenda.
Cool. Bob.
Open Space didn't. Open Space couldn't meet last month due to a lack of a quorum. They are getting together the 29th of this month, hopefully with some progress on the outreach committee. They've been working hard on that. Fire company, you guys will give us an update. I think we have a meeting coming up with a presentation. What's the date on that?
April 25th.
April 25th. Be there. It's going to be rocking. And the police, I'll let you talk. As far as I know, everything's going out. We did have a meeting this morning on the pension. Unfortunately, I could not make that one, so maybe Lori will give us more update on that later. But everything good.
Cool. Planning Commission had Todd Polig and the Reeves tract there. We don't need to go on about that again, so I'm gonna pass it right on down. Township Manager.
Very briefly, we did get an extension granted on our grant for the sidewalk project, so that's good news.
Oh, I wanted to tell you, I did get the electronic
Yes.
request for the signature on that.
I
I meant
saw.
to tell you and I forgot.
No, that's okay. I get alerted. I got alerted that you signed. So yes, that's perfect. And then very briefly, and we will talk about this at a future meeting, but we are working on setting up one, potentially two community movie nights with a big screen. So more to come on that. Here.
Oh, here.
Outback.
Yeah, we can use it for that.
Yep. Okay, that's all. Because it's 10:56 p.m.
Oh, sure. And sounds like Chief.
The usual report was submitted to all of you. If you have any questions, I'll entertain. I don't know if I don't recall if I specifically said last meeting that Chris Mignona of our police department was certified to install car seats for new parents. We extended that to anybody in the township and set up a email address for him that specifically would schedule when we do that, when he's working day work or early evening, depending on what works best for people in the township. That's really all I have.
And he is a new dad, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And
Boy, girl.
boy, girl,
Little boy.
little boy, name?
Grayson Mignona. There's a mouthful.
Oh, that's great.
Not
That's
to brag,
wonderful.
but we got to meet him.
Oh.
Very tiny, like 5
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. Little guy.
And everybody's doing well?
Everybody's doing fine.
Oh, that's great. That's good news to hear.
That's all I have.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Send my regards to Facebook guy. I enjoyed his earthquake post.
That's good.
Cool.
Yes, just an update for the PRP plan. We're going to be getting a memo and some coordination with Nick for the inlet filter bags. Additionally, for the Davis Road and Oakwood Lane, we've gotten the survey plans and we are starting to prepare the engineering designs of that, as well as we've gotten a proposal to do the 2 infiltration testings on Oakwood and Davis Lane. Lori, I passed them on to Lori, and Nick will be able to organize having the backhoe on site when it's needed. Additionally, Lori talked about the sidewalk extension. We are working on those plans, and we just had to get a follow-up AutoCAD surface from Gilmore and Associates, which they did provide to us. So we're anticipating a submission in PennDOT probably within the next 5 to 7 business days.
Thanks.
The sidewalks contemplated are both sides?
On Route 23, there is sidewalk on both sides, but it doesn't go in front of the car dealership, like by where Total Rental is. So it does start on, basically on the Phoenixville border, and it goes out there, but then it eventually dies off on the side, where the John Kennedy or the car dealership is.
But, okay, that's paved anyway, though.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's it.
We'll play a little agenda jazz. I'm gonna invite the fire department up for their public comment now, if they would like to make any public comment. Thank you. Okay, fantastic.
When's your next event?
I'll tell you what my phone died now.
It's a brick now. I mean, you can use it to escape through the window. Do we have any discussion on the agenda items for upcoming workshop meetings, or do we have those pretty much set for the minute? We have the fire department coming in for theirs on the 25th or whatever that is, the 25th. There will be a presentation, and we'll all enjoy. Yeah.
Did you say cake?
I heard that he has
I heard
volunteered cake, so we're gonna write that down in the minutes.
He
We're
makes
gonna-
really good coffee
Great.
with extra cream.
I'm gonna need it for this.
We could use
At
that
this
now.
point.
We
let's
have,
see.
that's what we have planned for April 25th.
Anything else?
We do not have anything else for it, so we'll need to discuss what else we want
We
to
have
do
the
at
plastic
future
covers
workshops,
today,
but
which is-
we already talked about that.
We talked about that. Okay.
I'll be calling in for that,
Okay.
because I'll be in Texas.
Cool. Thanks. No announcements? Right.
No.
Great. I'll make a motion. Oh, no, wait, hold on. We have a short executive session after the meeting to discuss litigation. I'll make a motion to
Also
adjourn
public.
Do we have additional
Do we
public comment?
Talk about the fact that we need some guidance or we can wait.
We're gonna do it right after.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody with, Steve? No public comment.
Okay.
I did, and, executive sessions now. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. All in favor?
Aye.